What's it doing?
The Out There channel.
Please sub and share.
Searching for the truth. UFOs, aliens, greys and ufology. Real images, real stories, real videos, real cases, researched and investigated by professionals in the field and cutting-edge discoveries. Multiple witnesses, abduction accounts brought to you by Team The Out There channel. Good to be back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Action.
Ah, we got a UFO crash land in the park. Yo, anybody up there? Yo. Are you there, Robert? We'll just make sure the audio's sounding good.
Yeah, okay, we're live now, yeah?
Yeah, let me just check the audio levels. People in the side chat. 1, 2, 3. Just make sure we're about the same. And say hello to Shogun. Go ahead, Shogun. Robert.
Okay, 246. How's it sounding?
I think we're about the same level. How about that? Does it sound alright, Shogun? If not, I'll boost. If not, I can boost them up. I might just boost you up a little so you're a bit louder than me, actually. How about now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
246.
I think that sounds a bit better, doesn't it, guys? It's a bit hard to tell because we don't hear it going out.
Yeah.
Sounds okay. Yeah, is Robert slightly louder than me? Because he tends to go for the toilet during the show and he comes back and the mic distance changes, so we boost him up a little so we counteract that.
Yeah, if I don't move the laptop about, everything should be okay.
Yeah, I think we're right. And
yeah, Shogun.
I just readjust this window here, but there we go. So we're all good. I'm sure I played the clip now to introduce what we're going to do today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the testimony of David Grusch, but of course, I think what Marco Rubio said was quite significant. So, yeah, I don't know which version of the interview you've got here, but I know a lot of people, Paul, that have had copyright strikes with News Nation. So I don't know if that's direct from News Nation or not. I don't know. If it is...
Yeah, if it's a news clip and it's older, then it should be okay. But if it's live on their site at the same time, you're going to get a strike.
Well, that's what they were doing. That's what people were doing.
Right, yeah. Let me just pin up the comment here and I'll play the clip. Just to kick it off. Looking good. So we got Shogun and Countryman here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, and I think that's all we've got so far. We'll see the others pop along. I think they normally get an email about 15 minutes after We start. So I'll just play this, make sure the audio looks okay. Nothing worse than watching other live streams and the audio's all over the place, or it's corrupting or stuff. I don't think we've had too much problems the way I've got it set up here, because I don't use all the third party that the other people do. Oh, at least the thing works. So before I started the show today, the mouse was glitching all over the screen, and I thought, oh, could be a bad battery in it. So I've plugged in the power cord, and it seems to be okay now. But of course, having a cord on it, sometimes you get a bit of resistance when you're moving the mouse unexpectedly, and you sort of click the buttons and stuff. And it's on a springy cord. So is this News Nation? This one? Let me just check. News Nation YouTube. Okay. I'll just kick it off. Okay, we've got to watch out for the music, maybe. Just move it on a bit.
In an exclusive interview that the U.S. government has UFOs in its possession is not the only person making UFO claims. According to the Florida Senator Marco Rubio, others have come forward as well. In another interview you'll see only on News Nation, the top-ranking Republican senator on the Intelligence Committee says other intelligence officials have come forward in secret to Congress alleging first-hand accounts of UFOs, officially known as UAPs. We first brought you this story, you might remember, 3 weeks ago. The whistleblower David Grusch told News Nation the U.S. government has a crash retrieval program and is secretly in possession of what he describes as alien spacecraft. Well, now we're learning just how widespread his claims might be. News Nation's Joe Khalil joins us live from Washington with the exclusive here. Joe, you've been trying to interview Senator Rubio for weeks now. You finally sat down with him, and whoa, what did he tell you?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to track him down because Rubio is one of the so-called Gang of Eight, someone who is privy to a lot of intelligence that the rest of us don't have, particularly on this issue. And the big takeaway is that he says there are a number of people who are making claims that are similar to what we are hearing from David Grusch. And Senator Rubio told us specifically that a lot of the people coming forward with these claims, he says, are serious people. Shocking as whistleblower David Grusch's claims were.
Non-human, exotic origin, vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
Senator Marco Rubio, the top Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, confirms exclusively to News Nation that there are others, first-hand witnesses, making similar claims to Grusch's. The people who do have first-hand knowledge, have you talked to anybody who he says, these are my sources, these are the guys that have actually seen first-hand aircraft? Have you talked to anybody?
I will say there are people that have come forward to share information with our committee over the last couple of years. I would imagine some of them are potentially some of the same people that perhaps he's referring to. I want to be very protective of these people. A lot of these people came to us even before these protections were in the law for whistleblowers to come forward.
People who have had firsthand knowledge, who claim to have firsthand knowledge of seeing this type of thing?
Firsthand knowledge or firsthand claims of certain things.
Not only that, Rubio says many who've come forward privately with claims about UAPs are in high-level government positions. People entrusted, he says, with important jobs.
Most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, like, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up?
Rubio couldn't get into any specifics of any claims, citing whistleblower protections, but he did say many of them have come forward risking a lot, fearing backlash. Rubio says the Senate Intelligence Committee owes it to those people to take their claims seriously.
A lot of them are very fearful of their jobs, fearful of their clearances, fearful of their career, and some, frankly, are fearful of harm coming to them. Navy pilots, people who we entrusted to do some really important things for our country, are saying some pretty incredible things that I think we have an obligation to take seriously and listen to.
Likewise, when Grusch came forward to News Nation, he did so knowing his reputation was on the line.
I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Blake, Rubio is being cautious about this. He's not jumping to any conclusions about the veracity of these claims just yet or about what these things may be. He did talk to me about the risks that potentially some UAPs we've seen on video that have been widely released and shared could potentially be an adversary, China or someone else. He says that, too, is a major concern, all the more reason to do serious investigation into all of the claims that we're hearing.
Yeah, clearly lots of questions out there, Joe. But the senator, Senator Rubio, some other senators as well, just wrote part of a major defense bill, and what they wrote in it also seems to add more credibility to David Grusch's claims, right? What can you tell us about part of this defense bill?
Yeah, it was interesting. It's an amendment to a bill, and it basically says that there is going to be consequence for anybody who was working illegally on, and it specifically says here, UAPs or non-Earth exotic origin spacecraft, anyone working to reverse engineer something like that. That language is going to be in a bill text. Now, that in itself, Blake, is really incredible and something that we may not have expected to have seen, a couple of years, even a couple of months ago. But there it is, and it does seem to at least lend some credence to some of the claims that we're hearing.
Certainly in the forefront. Joe Khalil up for us in Washington once again. Joe, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
All right, so that's the intro done. So there's a lot there to break down there, Robert.
The most important part of it, really, and the only part of it, I suppose, is he mentioned first-hand witnesses with first-hand knowledge. I mean, by that he means he knows people who have worked on these SAP special access programs, and they're in a skiff, what they call a skiff. And now they're the only people worth listening to. The second-hand witnesses like Grusch, for example, now what you're hearing from them is just hearsay, and there's a very good chance that those people have been fed disinformation. So they might well be telling the truth as far as they know it, but they could be talking a steaming pile of dog poo at the same time. Now, it's only the first-hand witnesses that are going to do anything to move this forward. The others, it's corroborating evidence of sorts, I suppose. But we need the first-hand guys. Okay, if they've gone on the record. Another problem is now, when you're investigating these SAPs, you need a really high clearance, like a level 50 to get access to these programs. Now, the people at Arrow don't have that. They were at level 15, which is nowhere near. So they're going to have to get you're going to have to get their clearances pushed through before they can even start investigating. So what I think, if they do end up taking these people seriously, I think maybe the Senate will have to investigate rather than Arrow, because they'll have maybe more the appropriate clearances to do so. But this could all take at least a couple of years to unravel, So I know that Gillibrand has come forward and said there's going to be hearings soon, but I think that's going to be just a preliminary thing to the main investigation. So this is it's going to take a hell of a lot to actually dig in, and you've got to have the power to arrest these people, and confiscate the materials they've got. Now that might not be so easy, because if a private company, say like Boeing, for example, now recovers a UFO, then technically that's their property, it belongs to them. Yeah. And they don't have to reveal it to anyone. So can you see how complicated and how much red tape there's going to be to get to the bottom of all this? It's going to take time.
Yeah, I think the body language or Grusch was crazy, but He did seem a wee bit arrogant, like the body language guy said. And he did seem very sure of himself. So he believes what he's heard, for sure.
I believe so. Yeah, I
but who's he heard it from is the problem. We don't really know. Whether it's some of these first-hand whistleblowers and also some other people that we know about, like Zondo, Lou Elizondo, or other people like that.
Yeah, sorry, Paul, can I just talk there for a second now?
Yeah.
Because you hit on a good point there. I'll tell you why I think a lot of this information has come from Lou Elizondo. It was Lou Elizondo about 2 years ago that twice on podcasts brought up this Moderno crash in Italy, near Lombardy in northern Italy. Twice Lou mentioned that, and now we've got Grusch saying it. There's another thing with Grusch as well. It's come out now. He's autistic. He's on the spectrum. Now I done some research on that, and I'm no expert on this at all. But I found the forum, which is full of people that, were on the spectrum themselves. And I was looking at the gullibility factor with these people. And quite often, because they're so honest themselves, they tend to take what other people say at face value.
Yeah.
But then you counter that argument by saying, well, come on, if Grusch was gullible, then he would never have got to the clearance level that he got to. So I don't know, that one's up in the air.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of autism as well. And from what I read on it, the head movements don't match what's listed in what I could find in literature and documentations and labs. They do walk around in circles around tables and do repetitive things like OCD, they sort of repeat things and stuff. But I never saw anybody talk about the crazy head movements like that. And you probably could look it up online now and actually bring up a list of things on autism. I think that's just an excuse that he come across like he was acting, right? Like he was reading a script. Traits. Yeah, let's just bring up a page on that. I say, they got a list here. Find it hard to understand what others are thinking or feeling. Getting very anxious about social situations. Would that cause a crazy head movement like he was doing? I don't think so. I think it would be like bobbing around, more bobbing around all the time. But he was nodding his head when he was saying no and all that sort of stuff. Find it hard to make friends or preferring to be on your own. Well, he seemed like he was okay in the room being interviewed, right, with all the cameras around. Seemingly blunt, rude, or not interested. Well, he certainly wasn't that. Finding it hard to say how you felt. Well, he seemed to not have any trouble doing that either. More items. Okay, have we got more? Oh, what's happening
what I
there?
specifically looked for was gullibility. Or naive, basically. Naivety. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, how do we get to taking things very literally? For example, you may not understand sarcasm or phrases like break a leg. Having the same routine every day and getting very anxious if it changes. So to me, that list doesn't really match David at all.
No.
Other signs, let's see. Maybe he's got some mild symptoms. Not understanding social rules. Well, I think he would have done that, else he would have been standing up during the interview and doing all sorts of things. Avoiding eye contact. No, he was definitely looking at Ross. Getting too close to other people. where he's pretty close in the chair in front of the Ross, noticing small details.
I don't know. I don't think it means close, as in the proximity to a person, Paul. I think it means close and is emotionally bonding. They're not very good at that.
No, it's talking about here getting upset if someone touches you or gets too close to you. Noticing small details, patterns.
Okay, so that is proximity then.
Yeah, smells and sounds that often do not. Having a very keen interest in certain subjects or activities. Well, that's one that matches. He's very keen in the UFO topic. Liking to plan things carefully before doing them. Well, that's also matches him. So maybe they practice the interview, and that's why it comes across more acting, right?
Well, you do know that there's actually over 8 hours that interview.
But it doesn't say anything about strange head movement, but I think we have to narrow it down.
Yeah. And you may be just reading too much into it, you know.
I think Ross Cohart threw that in there. Maybe, I hope he had permission to say that about him as well. You know,
I would imagine so.
He might be very upset, saying, "Are you calling me autistic when I'm not?"
No, he did actually say it's by his own admittance.
Head stimming, as it's called. What is head stimming? Many children bang their heads to reduce other sensations of pain. So he certainly wasn't banging his head.
Yeah, that's in children.
Yeah, but what do adults do? Even though it seems counterproductive, medical professionals believe this type of stimming releases beta endorphins that decrease the sensation of pain or provide a sensation of pleasure. Body characteristics and movement. And the mouse is playing up, and so restricted and repetitive behaviors. Now, you could say him moving his face around like he was doing. You could say it was repetitive behavior, I guess. They include repetitive body movements, rocking. Well, he wasn't rocking. Flapping, spinning, running back and forth. Now, he certainly wasn't doing any of that. So, yeah, I don't know.
A lot of that is in children, you know, so...
wasting
adult time, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Let's just do adults and see anything this pops up. In adults, here we go. Find it hard to understand, getting so that's the same list as we had. Blunt, rude, posturing, yeah, holding hands or fingers at an angle. So it doesn't say whether it's adult or not. But anyway, that said, even typical adults may exhibit repetitive movements such as jigging a leg. I don't think he was jigging his leg. Drumming fingers. I don't think we saw his hands too much on the table, or chewing on a...
See his legs either.
Yeah, chewing on a, and it stops, unfortunately. Damn it. Oh, here we go. I'll have to sing that again. Yeah. Whereabouts did we get? Or repeating certain phrases. Higher. Repetitive behaviors include autism traits such as routines and rituals. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's extreme autism in that case. Anyway, move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I don't know how you managed to. You just found that Gillibrand schedule and hearings with UFO whistleblower David.
I think it's limited what I can read. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's behind the paywall.
Yeah. Gives you only a paragraph, and then it says pay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the gist of it anyway. But he has to agree to have cameras there. If he doesn't want them, then it's going to be held in a classified meeting.
Well, often you want to play back stuff, so it has to be recorded. Because it's like, if I hear it, it's like a courtroom, isn't it? So it has to be recorded.
You do know that Grusch has done a second interview as well, don't you? For a Dutch magazine. Yeah. And
not sure if I got it here.
He said some other stuff in there, like that was that he never said with Coulthard. I mean, one of them was the use of lethal force and.
Yeah, did I have it?
That some people have disappeared off the face of the earth because they've talked about this before. He certainly never mentioned that bit with Coulthard.
Yeah. Well, we got two what's his name? John Greenwood, the Blackvault.
Yeah.
Bits here.
Yeah, well, John's staying sceptical of the whole thing. I don't blame him.
No, I don't have a link to that one. I think I sent it to you anyway from Green Street, was it? About the Dutch thing.
Yeah.
I think I talked about it last live about the fake alien pictures in the article on the Dutch site.
Yeah, but that's no fault of Grusch. That was just stupid and drinking that up.
But does it mean that they believe but we don't know if they believe those photos were legit or not. That's the only thing.
Well, I don't think they would have known anything about those photos being used.
Well, even Lou.
So, no, you can't. Oh, no, it's the magazine. The magazine decides what it's going to print.
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do with anybody else. That's why you got to be careful who you give these interviews to. They can twist what you're saying and add things like that and make you look like a kook, basically.
Yeah. Definitely if it's UK rag. So I'm not sure how bad the other one is.
Yeah, he needs to be more discriminating with where he goes with his testimony.
You just don't go. Yeah, but they might be offered lots of money, you see. Come and do an interview with us for $10,000.
Yeah,
would you reject it?
This could all be a money-making enterprise.
Yeah, that's right. It could be, get on public face out there and then start a podcast. Like so many we know already of doing that. Cahill and...
that book that he writes is going to sell millions of copies.
Oh, yeah. Even if he sold 100,000 copies, like $10 each, and got half that money, it's still going to be quite a sizable chunk of money coming in.
Yeah, but his book's going to be more like $35.
Yeah,
say
I know.
He sells 100,000 and he gets half of that, and a publisher gets the rest.
Yeah, but he's only second-hand information. I think it's the other whistleblowers that we now hear about.
Well, I don't know. Luis Elizondo has he claimed to have worked at ATIP and all that, so we don't really know what he's seen there. But there's another thing here that I need to bring up, and it's quite important. Are you guys aware of the Defence Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review, known as DOPRA?
Yeah.
Well, DOPRA, before you can speak like this, you have to go through them, or else you could end up in jail. As simple as that. Now, Grusch has been to DOPRA, and they've cleared him. for everything he says. Now that's a bit of a red flag, because he's talking about SAPs there. Now that in itself is classified. Just to talk about them, just the name of them alone is classified, and that's speaking out of school. But yeah, he said this this program that he was aware of was called the program. So he's revealed the name of special access program publicly, but Doppler thought it was fine for him to say that. Now there's another reason why they might think it was fine if it was complete and utter bull, because then it doesn't matter. Now, do you remember Brandon Chase, the CIA guy who wrote a book which was pure fiction, absolute pure fiction? He was the guy who happened to stumble into an office and there was a shoebox with a name Roswell written across it. Can you even believe this?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Box and looked in it, and he seen conclusive proof that there was Roswell was real, and there was aliens and a crash saucer and all this. Now, why did Doppler let him write that in his book? I tell you why. Because it never happened. It was just bull.
There's no way to prove it.
Bull. No, it's not. No, because it was bull. If there was any truth in that, he'd have never been allowed to write about it, Paul. And it's going to be the same with Lou Elizondo's book now. When that comes out, before that's published, it has to go to Doppler first. And if they see anything there that's borderline national security, they'll tell him to take it out.
I think Lou's book's meant to be covering all the other stuff that he believes in, like interdimensions or portals and all that sort of stuff.
He can talk about that. He can talk about that all he likes. That's fine. Yeah. And of course he can tell a lot of the war stories of, you know, when he was in when he was in Afghanistan and Iraq and all that, you know what I mean? I think he'll pad the book out doing it that way. But it's gonna sell, even if it's full of nonsense. Yeah.
But isn't that what a lot of book writers do in ufology, though? You know, you've got the Trinity case. And we got...
Oh, yeah.
You got Jack Valet. In fact, I was watching Proof was out there last night, and they had a case I actually analysed and knew that it was internal camera reflection, right? And it's called the 1971... the best UFO disc ever footage, and you might be able to recall it. They were flying over
not Turkey, no,
Mexico, was it, or Puerto Rico, or somewhere like that. They're flying over there doing a mapping thing before Google. They were mapping the land below, and they caught a UFO on it, but like, you know, Google Earth UFOs, right? And when you see the camera and see what's inside it, and how it's got the same sort of pattern inside the camera, when you get the right angle of sun, you get internal reflections of lenses, and it creates a false image. So I analysed it, and I figured out that, and then I had this article that I carried on reading to see if they confirmed what I was the suspect of it being a camera artifact. And sure enough, they said pretty much the same thing. And yeah, I find it really interesting that Proof is out there, does a show on it to try and debunk it. And Mark D'Antonio didn't have a clue about it. He said it was something hit the lens and caused a stone chip in the camera lens. But he couldn't explain why it was only in one picture. So obviously that discounts his theory on that straight away. But at least he got one thing right. He said the ground shadows showed which way the sun was, and it was totally wrong on the UFO object. And that he said in that case it can't be a real object, it's got to be an artifact. And they totally ignored that information and went on to the next guy, another photo expert. he said, "Oh yeah, this is a real object at 600 feet below the plane, blah blah blah," which is totally wrong, because he didn't even pick up the shadows being in the wrong direction and all that sort of stuff. So I posted up a little clip last night before bed and sent it off to that Tony Harris presenter, saying, "Oh look, you totally ignored the shadows, and this is what it really is." And I found the old live show we did where I did live analysis on it, and yeah, these guys never replied back to me. They treat me like an idiot, even the other debunkers do, right? But you know, I'm one of 2 people in the world that actually solved that one. They should start listening to me more. But you can see, though, if David Grusch was given that photo as well, he would come up with the same conclusion. Oh, yeah, that's what people described to me, what they saw, you know, and he would verify it being a legit UFO. But it could be the same with the alien pictures. You know how Boyd Bushman with his fake pictures?
Oh, yeah, the Walmart. Yeah, I know. There's another whistleblower that...
Yeah. But I think he believed those images were what he was told were real, and he didn't do any background checks to see whether it was art renderings. But like Billy Meyer used, he took pictures from books and all sorts. Yeah, so I don't think a Lockheed Martin engineer would be mental to prank people that way unless he was paid to do so, or he really believed in what he had there and what he was told, and whoever fed him that disinformation, we won't know, I suppose. But you can see how these whistleblowers can themselves be groomed, right? They can be groomed with information and actually believe in it and come across very credible.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happened with Grusch anyway.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, let's look now at his claims. Yeah. Now, one of his first claims was the Italian crash,
right?
Which happened in a little town called Moderno in Lombardy in northern Italy in 1933. And the wreckage was hid in this secret hangar. And at the end of the war, the Pope, who had knowledge of this UFO crash, informed the United States and the OSS, which was the forerunner to the CIA, then picked up the wreckage and took it back over to the United States, where it's been ever since. Now, that reads like something out of a kids' fantasy magazine. So what really happened, I don't know. There was some documentation which was authenticated. The documentation does not mention anything about UFOs. It's just correspondence between Mussolini and I think it was his nephew, who was also in an official position. And but there's nothing about UFOs in the documentation, and the story's grown into a legend. First there was no bodies, then there was 2 Nordic blondes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Billy Meyer rings the bell.
Okay, so a group called SISU, which was the Central Italian Study for Ufology, done a great deal of research on this case, and they totally smashed it to pieces, absolutely smashed it to bits. And I think at its helm was a guy called Eduardo Russo, and he did most of the work on that case. Now, it appears that something did crash, because the year after, the Italians started spending inordinate amounts of money on jet engine propulsion, which resulted in their first jet aircraft in 1940. but of course they were using it in test flights for a lot longer than that, and it was known as it was called the Caproni 1. It was a very early jet aircraft. So when you look at all that spending, how much spending was going on by the Italians right after the crash, what I think they may have discovered was some early kind of jet propulsion from the Nazis.
That doesn't make sense.
What they found, they didn't recognise.
Yeah, they tried to reverse engineer it.
Yeah. And of course, Marconi was brought into it. Now, Marconi was, apart from being a superb scientist, he believed there was aliens on Mars. He could contact them using radio waves. Well, of course, that was in the 30s and 40s. We didn't know then that Mars had no environment and what have you, and it's basically uninhabitable. Unless there's something underground, I don't know. It's plausible, but yeah. So Marconi was a big believer in aliens, you see. So that's why they used his name in the story to make it seem more plausible. It was Marconi that looked at the wreckage of this crash and decided that this isn't made by human hands. This is alien. But the case has been absolutely thoroughly debunked until Luis Elizondo brought it up about 2 years ago, and now Grusch is spouting exactly the same stuff.
Yeah, I think the radio signals from Mars was they didn't know about stars and all the universe. But in radio waves are everywhere. So radio waves was pretty new, and even Tesla was fooled by a repetitive sound, which was like a neutron star circulating another one. So as it went behind, you lost the signal, and as it come back around, it beat again, and there's something to do with the orbits. So
remember that big observation? Oh, go on.
What are you saying? No, I'll finish. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Paul. Remember that big observation business that was going on in Australia? They were looking for alien life through radio signals, and they were detecting these amazing signals. You're talking about the well signal?
No, not the wow signal. No. They were no. This Australian business was a kind of a supplement to SETI. Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Most people know that. Shostak and all that. And they were detecting these amazing signals, and they couldn't understand why these signals were only happening at lunchtime. And then they realised it was the guys heating up the food in the microwave.
Really? I haven't heard that story before.
Yeah, it's a famous one.
Oh, right. You don't know the name of the facility by any chance?
No, I don't. But it'd be easily found with the information I've given you there.
Yep. So, there has been some problem with the first whistleblowers information that's come out since News Nation.
Some of them haven't checked out.
And Blackvault put this up yesterday and caused a bit of a stir on the Twitter field. What's he saying here? Wow. Whoa. Well, UAP whistleblower David Grusch was vetted and found credible by Inspector General House Oversight Committee James Comer. So some of the other witnesses, House Republicans wanted to testify on UFOs, are being replaced after some issues were flagged during their congressional background checks. So they do a background check on their mental state, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. It could be anything like that,
Yeah.
I tell you, they were probably Stephen Greer's witnesses.
Yeah, got to discount those straight away.
Oh man, anyone who's associated with that charlatan. Yeah, I can't.
Well, I
can't
see
take
Lehto
seriously.
likes Dr Greer. I was talking about him last live show too. And
Oh, my
he
God.
actually believes...
What happened to him?
Yeah,
What has
Lehto
happened
believes
to
Dr...
Lehto?
I know, he believes Dr Greer. He believes him. So that's what happens when you're like new in the UFO field. We've been in it for so many years now. We know all the ins and outs and the liars and the grifters.
Yeah.
I think this is what happens when these people are new in the field start a podcast. It's the way they think they're going to grow their channel really big and be really credible is just get every person in the UFO field on their channel to interview. And it doesn't work. You got to be very selective who you have on and make sure you know about their background and ask them the really hard questions, right? Now, if we've already proven Greer is a liar on his light beings, where he was claiming he was talking to a cactus tree, a Joshua tree. We know 100% it's a Joshua tree that was photoshopped. And he's making, he still goes around grifting on that one on stage, making the movements of the Cupid boy, angel-built boy. We know he's calling a lie and he's repeating a lie, and there's no way he's communicating with a cactus tree, claiming it to be an alien. So... once you're caught out in one big lie like that, then you can discount everything else that he's come out with. As far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Finished, gone. He's charging people £5,000 to come out in the desert and meditate and see these UFOs. And if you want a private lesson, it's £15,000.
I heard it was only 2,000 US.
No. It's 5,000, and you've got to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which means if you did feel that what you were seeing were flares and drones, you can't say it.
Or get sued.
Or get sued.
Yeah. I'll post the Twitter thing to the side chat here. Maybe there's more today. I haven't bothered checking since you come on to see what's out there. It's probably more. First witnesses.
But you see, if that Lombardy crash now, or Moderno crash, or whatever, the Italian crash, Mussolini crash, known as RM, if Grusch has been if that can easily be checked out, okay, and it's gonna come back as complete nonsense. So that is one part of his testimony that's BS. Then they're going to think, well, the rest of his testimony is going to be the same. And it probably is. I think he's been fed disinformation. But now for people listening and think that I'm all pessimistic about this and I'm killjoy, now I am quietly, cautiously optimistic about the other people who've come forward who are first-hand witnesses, as in they've been working inside these special access programs. I am very cautiously optimistic that something good may come of that. But as I was saying, don't expect any big revelations this year or maybe even next year. If it's found these things do exist, they're going to have to find a way to tell us, and that's going to be...
If they go through the verification process of what they can talk about, there's not going to be any evidence, is there? There's not going to be any classified paperwork or pictures of alien bodies or UFO pictures, because I don't think somehow that would be cleared. But if it's
there
like
could be if given immunity. If the program's illegal, they're perfectly within their rights to do that. And if it's outside the government oversight, which it appears many of these SAPs are, then they're quite within their rights. Now they've got the immunity to bring evidence with them.
So this talk about them being scared.
Yeah.
That means, what are they scared of? Are they scared of the government?
One, losing their clearances, losing
Yeah.
their career, and the third one is, which is Marco Rubio said this, some of them are in fear of their lives.
Yeah, so that means the government that they work for will kill them or make it look like an accident.
Absolutely.
Car crash. The brakes
just
don't
like
work.
Catherine Silkwood. Just
Yeah.
like Catherine Silkwood.
Yeah. So,
and probably Dorothy Kilgarden as well.
Well, they generally would say if they got any family or kids, they would threaten harm to them rather than, because often people that come out are not scared of their own. Once they've come out and get killed, then that sort of makes them a martyr. They're not too. Most of them are not too scared about revealing information when they know they're going to die on a deathbed or whatever, right? But they might be more worried about what will happen to the kids, you know, pensions, and the government might cut off the money and all that sort of stuff, or do harm to them. So, but it wasn't really.
Told. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'll let you carry on after that. What I was told when they broke into David Grusch's house. And now this is complete speculation. I don't believe everything that people tell me that claim that, you know, they know stuff. But apparently they all these guys who broke into his house took a poo in his toilet and never flushed.
Yeah.
Which apparently is their way of leaving a horse's head on your pillow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any truth in that, but I do talk to people who claim to be in touch with Zondo and other people like that. You know, people who think he's great, actually. People who look up to him think he's the next
thing
best
is,
thing.
UFO people are right into conspiracies, and they're deep.
I know.
They're deep in the rabbit holes, and they never ever get out, and they get deeper and deeper into it. Until they are shown the truth, it's hard to bring them back out. You know, you got to really have a way to, you know, like I do with my debunks. You know, you got to show them that here's the evidence here that is on flight radar or whatever, or do a side-by-side comparison before they believe it. You know, that they were a bit gullible on that particular UFO case or whatever. But if they're covering up such a big secret of alien technology, and they've done it pretty well for the last how many years? 70, 80 years?
I think we're talking 75, 80 years now. You know, if you think that the Foo Fighters, that was in the 40s, you had the Scandinavian ghost rockets in 1946. And then 1947, on the 24th of June, Arnold had a sighting, which is classed as the beginning of the modern UFO saucer era. But if you actually look, and I'll tell you something as well now about Italy and Mussolini, they did actually have a group that were looking into UFOs. It was supposedly called RS-33. They had a number of UFO sightings during that time. And I also looked into the Spanish Civil War, which, if I'm correct, was 1936 to 39. And there's a number of typical saucer sightings during that period. So, you know, it's not really 1947. It's just 1947 when the press used to when the press for the first time got a hold of it and started running with it. And talking of the media again now, it's funny that only News Nation and The Hill and The Debrief, which isn't really a major outlet at all, There are no. Well, the New York Times done a little piece on Grusch's story, but it was a hit piece. I think it was entitled "Are the Government Leading Us to Believe That Aliens and UFOs are Real?" And it was a hit piece. So they're really kind of they're wary of this story, and they don't want to run with it in case they end up having egg all over their face. It's either that or they're being influenced by the alphabet agencies not to run with it. So I don't know, but they won't touch it. I mean, the tabloids in the UK are absolutely full of it. The Daily Mail, the Mirror, the Sun.
But you got to remember, USA is not the only landmass where UFOs can crash, right?
No.
You got Russia and you got China, Asia, and thick jungles there too. So why only America? You know, so that means all those other countries got to be covering up.
It's not just America. It's not really that. You know, Paul. Let's go back to the 40s again now. Actually, the 50s. We had APRO, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, which was run by the Lorenzens, German Coral Lorenzen man and wife team. That began in 1952. That was the earliest one. And then in 1956, NICAP and KEO came along. So in the States, you had actually somewhere to be part of these sightings too. But if you're in Africa or India, or even mainland Europe, there was nowhere to go with your sighting. You see, so they were probably still happening, but they just never hit.
But you know, if you get a crashed disc, though, someone's got to know about it.
Well, I don't know. I'm getting skeptical about all these crash source stories. To be honest, I don't. I think if there have been any, you can probably count them on one hand. Just one more thing I want to mention quickly now is that recently it's come out. There's been a spate going over the decades now of UFO incursions over missile sites, nuclear missiles in India and Pakistan. Now we're only just hearing about them.
Yeah, we've heard about the American ones. We covered it in past live shows. But the skeptics out there don't believe in it, like Mick West.
Well, I mean, Look, Mick West starts from the point of view with the premise that UFOs don't exist. So, of course, he's not going to believe it. He's a professional debunker. You're never going to get anywhere with Mick West. Although he serves his purpose, he's useful idiot. I'll say that.
Yeah. Although I find he doesn't tackle the really hard ones like I do, so...
No, he won't touch them with the 50-foot pole.
You know, he doesn't want to be wrong. But yeah, I think he's sort of right about some of the gimbal stuff that he's done. You know, that gimbal one, that would have to be a big object because it was 13,000 feet under the plane that we found out, right? That means it's got to be a massive balloon, right? Time you scale it down from 30, so it's just showing up on the TV screen on the cockpit of the plane. That's got to be a fairly big object. And now we know about these Chinese balloon experiments. I'm just wondering, back in 2015, that when they first launched them, the first experimental spy balloons, SFAR, or weather balloons, that would fit. I talked about it in a previous live show, and the way it was saying, they were saying it was moving at 40 miles per hour. That would fit perfectly with a
No,
balloon
that was the Go Fast. That was the Go Fast video, Paul.
Yeah, it's still part of the gimbal though, isn't it? The gimbal
No,
collection.
The gimbal is where the object seems to rotate.
Yeah, but I thought it was on the same day that was taken.
Oh, it could have been on the.
Yeah, I got a feeling it was on the same day, but I'm not sure now. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the Go Fast one is what I'm talking about. That's 13,000 feet below the fighter jet, so that had to be a fairly big object to be able to see it on the screen, right? Even if it's had 2 times zoom or whatever, still would have been a fairly big object. And no one talks about the size of the object. You know, Mick West talked about it being a bird. Well, it couldn't be a bird, could it? Because you wouldn't see a bird at 13,000 feet below you, would you? Then he changed it to balloon, but he never specified what type of balloon, whether he's talking about a weather balloon. But I think even a weather balloon would be too small.
Yeah, the fact that he's changing all the time just shows that he's got no idea really what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, it still could be unknown, right? But yeah, it fits the size of one of these Chinese UAPs. So maybe they were given orders to shoot it down. Who knows? Maybe we only saw part of the clip. But that's the whole problem with government leaks, you know.
Yeah.
And that whole Lou story being false, you know, that we find out now. That he didn't actually run any program. And they snuck out the videotapes.
We don't know that for sure. But it's not looking good for him.
Green Street doesn't like him, that's for sure.
Zondo called him one of the Felon Five, didn't he?
Was he one of them, was he? I wasn't sure which ones he was talking about.
Yeah, because apparently he had some kind of domestic with his missus. But he wasn't convicted for it. So you don't know what happened. Everyone has a bust up with their missus now and again. Wasn't convicted, so how can you call him a felon?
You sure it's Green Street you're talking about here, not McGowan?
Yeah. No, it was fairly sure it was Green Street, you know. But
because Green Street he was an ex-Mormon from Utah, wasn't it? Same as Brandon Fugel, but he's still.
Well, it's a high percentage of Mormons in Utah.
Yeah. Still much of a believer, and he collects ancient Bibles because he's got lots of money to buy them off collectors. But I think people that comes from a religious background are more open to believe and stuff because they have to believe there has to be a God and has to be a Jesus Christ or whatever, you know. So and they've never ever seen him personally, right? So believing in aliens is just a logical next step, right? And demons and all that sort of stuff, even if you haven't had a personal experience. But I believe he did actually see what he claims he saw on the ranch. But again, we don't know if that's sort of black ops technology where they can influence your brain to make you see things. You know what I mean? He talked about they were walking along on the Skinwalker Ranch and they all felt a bit funny. And one person collapsed. To me, that sounds like some sort of MK Ultra mind control with microwave energy or whatever. And that would actually make you feel a bit strange. I don't know. My friend talked about he whipped out a magnetron from a microwave once, and he had it on the bench, and he turned it on, and he said he couldn't even get near the garage. He had to cut the power out in the street. That's why you got to have the shielding. You could feel his skin tingling and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, Skinwalker Ranch have just turned it into a commercial enterprise.
I think Brandon believes these scientists and doesn't see that he's being lied to. Yeah. But then again, he did actually have an interview with Green Street where he said he was going to he listed it as entertainment. So he obviously has plans to put a hotel there and have, or open it up to regular, ghost hunting people that want to go there and investigate. Because that's where you could make lots of money. Open it up for TV shows, all these ghost hunters.
Well, hold on a minute. How can you do that? Look, the guy's claiming, that people are getting kind of exotic rare cancers on the ranch, and this phenomenon is following them home, hitchhiker effect. Listen, if you've got a piece of property and people are suddenly coming down with these strange cancers, you should be getting in contact with the authorities, not building a place where people can go there and risk their lives, if it was true, of course. I don't believe it for a second.
Mick West brought that up, and Brandon replied saying, well, everybody signs a NDA where they waive any risks that happen to them.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean that there isn't stuff happening there. But like paranormal, it may be quiet, might be quiet for years, and then suddenly it starts up again and then disappears. A bit like in my house where the doors would open up or the lights would turn on, and then it just goes away for 6 months.
Or 6 years.
Yeah, so whether there's UFOs there, I don't know. They haven't proven any evidence there so far on their video, despite Travis making up all these crazy claims and claiming that bugs flying through the video UFOs. The problem is they haven't got a video expert there to look at the evidence that they capture on film. And that Eric guy seems to be like a deer in headlights around Travis. He doesn't sort of say, hang on, Travis, this is not very scientific, is it? Where's your baseline? Where can we repeat the experiments on another day and see if we get the same results? But they've made already an offshoot series from Skinwalker Ranch, which is kind of very much the same, but it seems to have better scientists on it, even though they're still deer and headlight around Travis. But yeah, they've used different technology which they should have been using at Skinwalker Ranch. They used this 3D radiation mapper. It's called Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. Go and check it out. The first episode that they used this radiation detector. And when I was watching it, I said, well, that disproves there's radon gas coming from the ground. And at the time, they're saying, oh, what's this? This might be something about UFOs and all that. And then at the end of the show, the guy comes back. They had a real scientist they actually brought in. He said, no, I've analysed it. It's actually radon gas coming from the ground. And I said, yes! I'm not so stupid after all.
We've got an issue with that on angle, see?
What, radon gas?
Not radon gas, because if you breathe it in, it's the second biggest cause of lung cancer, next to smoking, of course.
Yeah, it accumulates in basements where you got granite and other types of rock. And we don't have basements here in New Zealand, so we don't have that problem. But also, it can actually accumulate around power lines, the 100,000 volt ones that run across the countryside over farms. High voltage. Yeah, we got some houses actually built underneath some of those, and oddly enough, my auntie, she had a house under one of these high-powered lines in the backyard before they knew about radon gas being attracted there, and she actually died of lung cancer. So whether it's related, I don't know. She was a bit of a chain smoker once and smoked most of her life. Whether it was caused by that and radiation, I don't know. But they tried to treat her with chemo, and it's the chemo that killed her. It wrecked all her immune system, and she just simply got some infection that shut down her kidneys and liver. and she was gone. She was gone in 2 days after doing chemo treatment. So yeah, pretty sad. And she wasn't that particularly old. Wouldn't have thought she would have died. She was quite fit and energetic and skinny and all that sort of stuff, but she did put on a few pounds as she got older, of course. But yeah, it's a bit sad. So yeah, where were we going with that one? Talking about radon gas or Skinwalker Ranch. So yeah, you can see why people believe so easily nowadays when you got these TV shows that are feeding them pretty much lies, and they're trying to make it credible with, oh, this guy's got 2 PhDs, which is really funny. Is Travis has actually got a PhD in optical science. I think it is optical science. So you should be able to look at a video and say, oh no, that's just a bug flying past the screen. Oh look, we can see it flapping the wings on 4K in the lab, but no. Whether he said that or not, it wasn't added into the show, but he certainly said a lot of other stupid things that they put into the show, so he had to say those things, or he had to read out a script and act it. So yeah, we can't really believe that show. Unfortunately, it's not going to solve stuff. And it's like the whistleblowers, you know. It's the same thing, really, when you break it down at this stage. Unless they can bring some documents and photos, I don't think it's going to go anywhere myself. It's just going to be more smoke.
Even if they established these SAPs are real, we have recovered sources and alien bodies. How can we tell us? How are they going to go about that? I mean,
you know, often though, yeah, I think it's just the terminology and words, right? Often the Americans talk about alien, but they also talk about illegal aliens, you know. Alien means something foreign, and say that the reclaimed alien craft might mean it's a foreign craft of unknown origin. Doesn't mean it's aliens.
Well, I mean, we know for a fact there have been crash retrieval programs. Project Moondust was one. But what that was mainly about was picking up foreign satellites, picking up foreign aircraft, maybe a MiG crashes somewhere in the States, and they go pick it up and whisk it off. But it doesn't mean to... Of course, an alien thing came down, they'd pick that up as well, but it doesn't mean to say that's what the program was designed originally to do.
Well, for sure they were picking up debris from outer space in case it was some sort of spy plane or whatever, you know, and seeing if they're ahead of us in technology, or because a lot of the technology is based on what you can manufacture in factories, where you can get down to nanoscale and all that sort of stuff, which is really where the meta materials come into. How would you? They've got to be manufactured, and you've got to talk about creating crystals and certain matrices and layers where they repel each other. So you're going to have the technology to do it. You know, they talk about bismuth and what's the other stuff? Titanium and stuff, and quasi crystals and all that sort of stuff. How they sort of create a skin that they can charge. Somehow makes it slip through the air faster. That's what quasi crystals are meant to do.
Isotopic ratios.
And also the bismuth is absorbs the microwave radiation, so it doesn't bounce back, so it becomes invisible to radar, right? And also the different angles, so it reflects in crazy angles, and it looks like basically radar noise on the screen. You know, like water vapor or a bunch of insects flying in the sky. So the they calibrate the radar equipment to eliminate the false positive on the screen. But now they've tuned down their NORAD, tuned down their sensitivity on the radar. They're going to detect a lot more things, like balloons with radar reflectors and all that sort of stuff. And they have to eliminate that. So I read somewhere that they were getting like, per shift, they were getting like 10 to 20 unknown objects in NORAD that they had to investigate since they turned it down. So whether that's all weather balloons or UFOs, we don't know. Because we don't.
NORAD get hundreds every year, you know.
Well, I'm saying they get probably per shift, that means 40, 50 a day, probably. I don't think there's that many UFOs flying above us, 50 a day. Or over America, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a small percent of something truly anomalous.
Mm.
But that's always been.
Yeah,
even UFO researchers know full well that 95% of sightings are misidentifications of mundane things.
Yeah. So I got this clip from Greenwald. I might just play a clip of it and post the rest of it on the side.
Greenwald or Green Street?
Blackvault.
Blackvault, yeah, okay.
He did Why the Skepticism. I'll just play a clip on this video. I'm not sure if people have seen it or not.
I have, but that's okay.
So I've got it actually on probably a bit more interesting bit on it there, but where does it start?
Forward here about the story of the UFO whistleblower David Grusch. Now, I'm sure you've heard a lot of the media stories. It's died down a little bit since it first appeared a couple weeks ago. But there's some new developments that I think are pretty cool. So I wanted to make this short update video for you, bring you that update, but also to kind of give you some thoughts of where I'm at with it, if you couldn't tell from the first video I dropped to today. Now, as you can tell from that video, for those who did watch it, I'm pretty skeptical about the claims. And it's not just because I or anybody else who's skeptical about the claims wants to be a debunker and is pushing back on any good development that has happened. Quite the opposite. When it comes to me, you have to keep in mind, for those who haven't been around the field for decades, I have been around this UFO stuff for about 27 years. And in that time alone, I have seen numerous high-ranking, either government or military officials, or private corporation, but highly cleared when it came to classification, let's say from Lockheed.
I think he did his first FOIA request when he was 16 years old. I've heard him say that, I think.
Yeah.
So 15. Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time, longer than us two probably. I'm pretty new in the field, like video analysis for 8 years plus now, but.
But he's talking about FOIA. I mean, I've made about 100 FOIA requests. He makes that many in a day. Yeah, he's
a FOIA expert, but he's in America, so he can do that with the Americans. But whether he can do that overseas is another thing. Do you have to be in the same country?
Anyone can FOIA the US government.
How about UK?
Yes, anyone.
But you got to pay, haven't you? You got to pay, obviously, admin fees or something.
The most I've ever been charged was £160 odd.
That's quite a lot of money.
It's quite a lot of money, yeah. Yeah.
And that's just from one case, is it? That you're getting search on.
That was one case, and I paid £100 for another one. But the ones I've made to local authorities, like the police force, for example. I mean, there's lots of police forces in North Wales, North Yorkshire Police, Lincolnshire, but every county has its own
database.
One or two police forces. they've been pretty good with me, and they've given me the information for nothing, you know. Yeah, I think there's only maybe I can count on one hand how many times I've had to pay an admin fee, and you're paying them actually how many hours it takes for them to search for the information that you need. So you're paying about £12 an hour while they go look for it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be easier if you just can bring up a web page and search it yourself?
It's not on the web.
Yeah, I know. But they could declassify. Well, they could black out the stuff and still have it searchable. You know, you could search on keywords and stuff.
Like some of the police departments do that. You go on their website, search for it there, and if it's not there, then you make a FOIA request.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to talk about, but I've forgotten now. I'll just progress this on.
Keith Martin, Boyd Bushman comes to mind. Highly cleared individuals working on top secret stuff, irrefutable that they are, but have these grandiose claims of even speaking with aliens or having photographs of aliens. Philip Corso is another one that has come to mind. It's a book that will forever live in infamy in this field, but really our world didn't change after he came out. He didn't really bring anything with it. But for the price of his book, you can hear all about a lot of his claims and so on and so forth. And those are only two off the top of my head. I mean, there's a lot more over the years that have come forward, some with more grandiose claims than others. So skepticism towards David Grusch is not because it's David Grusch and we want to, completely combat any type of claim that's made today. No, it's rather based on a long history of people making these types of claims, but saying, trust me, I have the proof, but I can't show you. Now, David Grusch could have every good intention in the world and even believe what he's saying. I can absolutely buy that. But whether or not he is being played, or that he caught that he was being played, or he's misinterpreting information, or whatever the case may be, again, you don't need to automatically label somebody a liar. They could absolutely believe what they are telling you, but what...
So it's funny how even John, comes up with the same thing, same ideas and feelings that we have. So how many other people out there are seeing the same thing? Well, obviously not everybody on Twitter, right?
No.
They're not being critical thinkers on it, but we are, because we've been through the whole process before, with Bob Lazar and...
This is what you need to understand is a lot of these people today, they shot up in 2017 with a New York Times article, glowing orders and black money. They don't remember all the other whistleblowers that have come and gone and have been debunked to high hell. They don't remember that. If you don't know your history, the chances are you're going to repeat it. You're going to make the same
And of course,
mistakes.
we got the next generation of UFO people coming in that know nothing like that,
Exactly, the 2017 ufologists, I call them.
And they're going latch on to people like Tyler Klockner and Third Phase of the Moon and Goofon and all the other grifters out there, and they get really caught up in... and of course you got what's that guy, UFO Jesus guy, Ryan.
Well, I think the people are getting caught up with is more Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Sean Cahill and Gary Nolan. Good God, I mean, he's been talking some stuff recently. I'm shocked what's happened to him, but he's fallen in with that crowd, hasn't he?
And there's also another one you forget, Avi Loeb.
Oh, Avi Loeb, he's clueless.
He's dangerous. I thought he would have been good for ufology, being a real scientist,
He's still thinking in Newtonian terms.
Yeah, and he's at the moment claiming he's found evidence of crashed UFOs in the sea from his marbles, or whatever you call it, meteorites.
This comes from outside the solar system. I mean, he's
To
got
me,
no interest in it. I'm telling you that
yeah,
now.
I think he's trying to make money off it himself. I think that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, but he's been given a shed load of money. I mean, that expedition he's doing out there in the Pacific, that must be costing millions of pounds.
Yeah, well, there's money for the actual topic, and there's money for himself. I think he's trying to make lots of money for himself, as well as fund that project so it keeps on going for years.
Yeah, could well be.
Yeah.
Could well be.
So he's trying to prove that rock, Umo, or whatever it's called, was actually a spaceship, a hollowed out chunk of rock with engines strapped on it. Muramura, yeah. So, which is possible, but there's been a lot of other scientists that have figured out the push wasn't from engines, and there could be some other explanation. So you got to remember, they didn't have any space cameras on it. All they had was like a radar return and radio, signal back, and they could build up an image of what it actually looked like. But they didn't actually have any optical telephoto zoom on it. They didn't have a P1000 out in space filming it. So next time they might be ready if it comes back, but you don't know what the orbit is. But the thing is, we are orbiting around a spiral arm that takes millions of years, and you just don't know if these rocks that wiped out the dinosaurs is going to suddenly come through our solar system at some point.
Well, we're due for a good extinction at the moment.
Yeah, well, they reckon, was it 2039 is meant to be extinction, where the meteorites actually the asteroids actually going to hit Earth in 2039. So they're going to have to get in space, and they're going to have to deflect that. Maybe I won't be alive then. I don't know, but we have to see how it pads out, I guess.
Yeah.
Will we ever find out about aliens and UFOs for real? I don't know. We got our own personal experiences that we can't wrap our heads around, because generally it happens when we're not fully awake or whatever. But or it might not be, something you see in the sky. It might not be very obvious what it is. But I think if you compile it, put it all together, like the abduction people and all the cases out there, all of them can't be wrong. There's got to be some truth there that aliens have been showing up and abducted them, but we don't know where they're coming from. Whether it's sort of coming through a portal above their house, that's why we never see them. Or some other sort of craziness, like time slips where a chunk of land actually gets merged into another universe for a few hours and then pops back again. So there's all sorts of stuff we don't understand in that universe, and we've got a lot to figure out. What is sci-fi versus real science? But it's all good. It's all right to have theories, but proving it is another thing. Once you can rule out Big Bang and then focus on how the universe was really made, then we might progress on. But at the moment, the more stuff they put out in space, the more information we're collecting from the James Watt telescope, where it's sort of contradicting some of the stuff they believed in. And then they try and say, no, it's not contradicting, we can modify it so it actually fits. Hey, we got another person on the side. Well,
yeah,
signal.
It was quite funny. The whistleblower info is like when a pretty girl gives you a phone number. You don't believe it until you call her. Yeah, you do, and she tells you to F off. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just what's going to happen with all this whistleblower information, to be honest. I don't see it coming to anything. I just, as I say, if there is first-hand witnesses, I'm cautiously optimistic. But it's going to take, even if that is the case, it's going to take years to unravel. And then are they going to tell us?
Well, they'll tell you in a documentary that you can buy for $35.
Well, no, the government's not going to do that, are they? Government's got to find a getting it out somehow to the public without causing panic, and I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, I did say something to you where I think it could be the whole thing was for the government to get funding, new funding. And they got that now. They got that now, so now they want it to cool off, right? So they want to bring in these whistleblowers, and then it all pads out to nothing, and then people lose interest, and they can keep their department running and funded, looking for threats from the skies.
No, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe they want to shut it all down. I don't think they're comfortable with looking into this at all.
No.
I think quite possibly, just like Blue Book and the Condon Committee, I think in a couple of years' time, they might just say, okay, we've looked into this now for X amount of years, and we've found no conclusive proof of evidence of alien life. And they use aliens. They don't use the word non-human. That's a little bit of weasel word in there. And we don't think it's worthy of scientific study. Kaboom! Case closed. And we're back to square one.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah.
Because how many people in Blue Book and have looked into the history of Blue Book and the Condon Committee and the Robertson panel. Most people, the 2017 ufologists, you mention those names to them, they're like, what?
Yeah.
Who are they?
It's like history keeps on repeating in the UFO field, you know?
Yeah, it does.
You hear the stories, and then you find out one of them was crackpot, and then you think, oh, yeah, how many of the other cases are false as well? And you sort of lose interest in it again, then another department gets started, and then people get interest in it again. But it's not that we don't believe in it. We're just really skeptical of the stuff we've been fed growing up as kids, right? We've been around for a long time hearing these stories.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if they had recovered some kind of materials. I don't know about intact craft and aliens. I really don't know about that. Yeah. But they may have recovered some kind of... I mean, there's been many cases where UFOs have been seen kind of spewing out. I don't know. They call it UFO poo, don't they? That's the
Are you talking about Angel here?
No. Well, it could be something like that, but sometimes something like it seems like a slag metal, maybe a waste product of the propulsion system. We don't know.
I sort of got put off that with the Maury Island case, right?
Oh God Almighty!
And I never really believed much in aliens dropping off metal bits, and the stuff I've seen on YouTube turned out to be illumination flares. Well, actually, targeting flares, where they drop a whole bunch of them and they light up, and then they try and shoot at it, calibrate their guns, and it hits the parachutes, and they start falling down faster, and it looks like a glowing mothership with bits falling down, right? So people get conned by that because they hear that UFOs are dropping molten rock, molten metal. So
that's right.
But yeah, you know, planes, as our technology loses bits and pieces, you know, planes are often losing bits and pieces of them, and that might be part of the crash retrieval program, you know. Then someone might have something that falls down, like maybe even luggage or whatever. And someone goes out and collects it, figures out what happens.
I mean, you know, just imagine now if there was some kind of underground race species on the moon, and they come out for a little wander. We'll call them the clangers, and the clangers find the debris that was left over from the moon visits. I mean, they don't know if it's crashed. They don't know if it's just been left there. They don't know if it's something that was left for them so they could study it and advance their own science. They wouldn't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be crashed, does it?
No.
There's plenty of stuff left behind on the moon. But nothing. But we could have easily crashed on the moon. We didn't really know what we were doing. That damn mission was risky as hell.
Yeah.
So, you know, things do happen like that. I know Mick West was going on and on and on and on. He was really disturbed by this David Grusch testimony, wasn't he? And he done a live of his own. And he was trying to say there must be more UFOs flying around than there are airplanes in our sky at the moment, and why doesn't anyone see them? And he was just playing with figures. He doesn't know. He hasn't got a clue.
He's not really a UFO historian, so he doesn't know all the cases out there. And he's not had his own experience.
I asked him once, what did he think of the Iran 1976 case, and he conveniently said he'd never heard of it.
Really?
That's a yeah. That was on John Greenwald's show. I was in the side chat.
Oh, right.
Yeah. John asked him the question, my question,
right.
and I no knowledge of it. Yeah, bullshit. It's one that he can't explain. So it's too famous a case not to know.
Yeah, that's right. Certainly the airline fighter pilot believed it was real and what happened and all that. But
absolutely.
we can't discount that being some advanced technology from America, you know, DARPA program. Who knows? It might.
Well, no, I certainly don't think so, because the Americans took remember this now. This was 1976, before the Islamic Revolution in 79.
Yeah, they were friends with Iran.
Yeah, at the time, they were Iran
friends.
Was an ally of
so that
the
sort of
United
counteracts it.
Yeah, so those pilots were all American trained, despite the skeptics trying to say they were poorly trained. The plane had a history of electronic problems. That is just plain telling lies. They were well trained, and the plane was really good. But no, the Americans took an awful lot of interest in that case. If it was their own tech, I don't think they'd have taken such an interest.
It's that case that I like, and also the Japanese pilot case in Alaska. That's the other case I like as well, because it was actually radar information.
Yeah, there was with Iran as well. There was multiple radars on the
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's actually other evidence that was taken.
Yeah, the one you're talking about is Flight 18. It was the Teraheuchi case anyway. He was the pilot. He went forward to the press, didn't he? The next day he was flying the desk.
Yeah.
Yeah. They gave his job back eventually.
Yeah. That was like a mothership they saw that was like 5 times as big as the Jumbo, and had little sphere UFOs come out of it. Not discs, I don't think, but spheres.
Yeah.
It was a good case anyway, and basically there was radar data with it, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the one Teraheuchi scene was huge. thing was like the size of a couple of aircraft carriers.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, it's quite big. But yeah, unless that was some sort of airship, it would have to have some exotic technology to keep it up, you know.
Yeah.
So what's a whale signal saying?
Yeah, that's the one, Japanese Airlines 1628, yeah. I was going to say 1648, I'm glad I never know.
I think we've covered it in past live shows, that one, and a few others.
Sure we have. Yeah, I'm sure we've covered it at some stage.
We've done like 100 episodes, me and Robert, so go back and listen to them. That's called Robert Talks UFOs or whatever. Best UFO cases.
But there was the IB-47 case as well. There was the Charles Whitehead encounter. There was the Buffoon encounter. And some of these were really early cases as well, when we didn't have anything that was really exotic technology then. We're talking late 40s, early 50s now.
Yeah. So we can just carry on with what John's saying here. I got to stop it under fair use and just break it down.
What they are telling you is not necessarily the truth. So the skepticism, I think, is well deserved, again, for dealing with the big picture, dealing with all of these claims that have come around for decades. I think it's the right approach to treat this with the same amount of skepticism as all the other ones that have come forward, but sadly fell flat on trying to prove their grandiose claims to us. But that brings me to the newest development, which makes David Grusch's story kind of stick out compared to the rest. Whether or not it's true or not, this is where it gets kind of cool. And now I'm kind of popping the popcorn in the back in my kitchen there, waiting for what I hope is going to happen. Now, first, let me publicize and give credit where it is due to the journalist who broke this story, Matt Laszlo. Or Laszlo, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Okay, that was the article that we had a paywall against. So at least he's got the article here that he must have paid to get access.
Exactly, Matt. But all credit to him for breaking this story just a couple of days ago, that Kirsten Gillibrand is organizing a hearing with David Grusch, and possibly along with other current and former government officials who seem to corroborate Grusch's claims. Now, that makes Grusch automatically stick out from the rest, because here we are with a hearing, potentially, getting Grusch in front of the cameras, in front of the Senate, for an open hearing available to the public. Again, as Matt reports here, Gillibrand says they'll be open to the public if Grusch agrees to allow cameras in. Now, I'm a little surprised at that, just simply because if you're giving, let's say, whistleblower protection or immunity, per se, to this person who's making the claims, why is it their choice then to have cameras in the room? I get it. Maybe they get uncomfortable. Maybe they don't want to blast people's names in front of everybody. That's fine. We can make certain stipulations. But we're talking about not only grandiose claims, and I don't want to diminish this, but rather things that taxpayers paid for, whether by illegal funds or not. We are still putting the money into the coffers. We have a right to know. And these are our elected representatives who are going for this information.
The other point is they don't have to air it live, right? They can record it and then show it on a news clip after. And that way they've got time to edit out any names and stuff that was
anything that's too much of too close to the bone with national security.
Yeah, so they don't have to do it live. He still can have cameras there. Maybe he doesn't want to be caught out on lies. I don't know. So they can play it back to see what he said. But they must record it. Even if it's just a voice tape. Someone will be there typing it out. You know, what they call those people in the courtroom where they type it out. Transcriber or whatever.
Yeah, sure. But I'll tell you what, if he refuses to have the cameras there and it ends up in a classified meeting, that's going to be a bit of a red flag after he's already gone public.
Yeah.
With the Ross Coulthard interview.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess this is what the problem is with Blackvault as well.
And going to put Grusch under oath, put him in front of the committee, and essentially have him tell his story. I don't believe that he should have that choice. That's not to be offensive towards Grusch at all, but rather, come on, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't allow him to make the stipulations. If he wants to make the claim, let's make them. He doesn't have to put accusations on anybody. Those can absolutely be behind closed doors. So he doesn't have to name names. But let's, either make up pseudonyms or something. But I think the public definitely has a right to know. So I'm a little surprised at that. Maybe that's just protocol and procedure for experts that they're going to bring in. So fine, it is what it is. But my disagreement stands on whether or not that should actually happen. But definitely check out Matt's blog here and reporting on his website, and I'll link that in the show notes below.
But you have to pay.
So you have that, you can
3 days
explore
free
more in
access.
depth. He's actually written some more stories
7 days.
since this one. I'm not going to go through all of them. But again, full credit to him. He's the one that broke the story. He's the one that deserves the credit. So make sure you go check out his website and take a look at this exclusive story that he wrote. But I want to switch gears a little bit with that development. So there's the update, right? I wanted to just give you, this is where we're at. If the Senate is finally taking this seriously and they're going to put Grusch under oath in front of their committee, that's great. And I hope that it happens, right? I'm crossing my fingers. I hope that the Senate will hear from Grusch. I hope that he agrees to have cameras, and I hope we all hear a little bit more about his story. But switching gears a little bit, here is...
See, the thing, John would like that information, because then he can put that into a FOIA request and put people's names that was mentioned, see what he can dig up.
Yeah.
So...
But
yeah, carry on.
Like John said now, that things have clamped down an awful lot in the last couple of years. Now, that doesn't sound like any kind of...
openness.
Disclosure. Say again?
Openness. Not really open.
Exactly. The transparency has gone, and this is what they were telling the people. Oh, we're going to aim to be as transparent as possible. But they're classifying things now that really shouldn't be classified. I mean, like the shapes of the objects they were seeing. I mean, how ridiculous was that? Okay, now they managed to correct that in the last meeting, didn't they? But if they're classifying stuff like that, there was no way we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what Agro have actually discovered. I don't like the sound of it at all, and I don't like this NASA project either. I've got a funny feeling nothing good is going to come of that,
Yeah, because they work with NORAD, and NORAD works with them.
Well, people need to realize, people say, oh, NASA, they're a civilian organisation. No, they're not. They're part of the military-industrial complex. They're part of the system.
Yeah, but if it's modularized, departmentized, or whatever you want to call it, there could be a lot of people working for NASA that's clueless of what's going on. It might only be like a handful of people that are part of the cover-up or disinformation, right?
Oh, that's exactly what it will be.
Yeah. So when people talk about NASA and the employees say, oh, no, our science experiments we do is quite open. You can go to this website and get all the information. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this calling NASA evil is not gonna work. It's just going to be a few handful of people within the organization that are higher up in the food chain. That's the problem.
A control group, basically.
Yeah. So if they did really film stuff, I don't think you'd even hear about it. And people talk about, oh, look, they've missed this UFO and the footage and all that. I don't think that would happen. I think it would be fairly well checked before it went live. Even when they do live broadcasts, it's not going to be like live. It's always going to be a delay to showing it, right? And then they're not going to say, "Oh, there's a UFO, quickly blank out the screen." They're not going to do it that way. And people claim that they do it on purpose. But I've tried to explain how the relay satellites work as the International Space Station is spinning around, and they lose signal, and they got to re-angle the dishes back to Earth, or to these relay satellites, I should say, and start transmitting again. But I think aliens are a bit more clever than just flying around the space station or the SpaceX launches, right?
Well, there's one thing. If you look at the behaviour of UFOs, and if you look at the history of abductions, and you look for patterns in both of them, I tend to class them one and the same. You can only come to one conclusion. Whatever this phenomenon is, it's covert. They're doing something. What is it they're doing? I found that actually quite deeply disturbing. I mean, how many people are abducted while in a car on a highway at rush hour? None. It's always a dark, remote area, and they love chasing cars in dark, remote. Nobody's taken off the street in daylight. It's always in the dead of night. UFO sightings.
There has been people disappear in the daytime.
Much more likely. Where?
There was one case where a farmer was taken while he was driving a tractor, and the tractor ran off the side of the paddock, and they couldn't find him.
What?
Remember that case?
In broad daylight?
Yeah, in broad daylight. Yeah, yep.
Oh,
he disappeared.
I don't know. I've never heard of that case, so straight away, the simple reason I've never heard of it, I'm going to say that's.
I think you have. I think we covered it in one of the live shows going back years now. But let's see. I think it's like 18% other people see people being abducted.
Nowhere near. Not a chance.
And 30% happen in the daytime, or 40%. Quite a high number happens in the daytime.
A high number of abductions happen in the daytime?
Yeah.
No.
I think you'll find you might be wrong.
Damn it, I've been looking into this for donkey's years. You tell me of one abduction, good alien abduction story that's happened in daylight. Not one.
There has been.
Name me a case. Give
me a case. I don't know the case numbers, but there was one where the guy was in the lounge of the house and the wife was in the kitchen, and she come back in with food and he was gone. And they looked around for him and went outside, and they found the door was locked and all that sort of stuff. And he showed up back where he was sitting when they come from another room, and said, "Where did you go to?" Now, I'm not sure what the case is, but that was one of the cases that Bud Hopkins talked about. It's on one of his interviews or presentations. But I think I got it summarized in one of my documentaries. If you go back and listen, I think it lists all the percentages back then, a few years ago now. Maybe it's changed, maybe it's less now, but yeah.
I mean, there is witnesses to an abduction, but usually the people who witnessed it were taken themselves. Like the Knowles family case.
Well, yeah,
Charlie Hickson.
You might remember UFO Planet. What's his name? Darren Grapo. He said he was taken as a kid, and his parents saw it happening while he's being dragged off down the hallway, and they couldn't do a thing about it. And this would happen quite regularly. So that's his story. I don't know if he ever documented it with ERT in America or not, but that's what got him interested in the UFO topic. But he started doing websites on police emergencies and all that, where people could look up information of current police happenings in Canada, I think it was.
Daylight abductions, honestly, they're not really a thing.
But unfortunately, Darren left it. He gave up because he got fed up with all the copyright claims on Google, stupid stuff where he had actually written documentation saying that he was allowed to use the police logo and all that sort of stuff. He eventually gave up on it and handed the site over to 3 Mickey Mouses. They started putting up MUFON cases and without doing any analysis, and become part of the noise generation in the UFO field, and more noise generating. But he stopped doing it. I think it was UFO Proof. He interviewed UFO Proof and then found out all about him, and he got disgruntled about it all. But yeah. Darren seemed to be quite a good one. You could find his old episodes, but he was quite gullible. He wasn't no video analysis, and he got another guy on to help him with that, and that guy was useless. And I had to try and communicate with that guy and say, no, it's this and this and this. Have a look at this information. So they could correct it the next episode or whatever. But I think they got a bit confused with me and UFO Proof, and they thought me was UFO Proof, and they stopped talking to me and all that sort of business. But abduction. I'm not sure if you can find that information, but Earl Grey probably would be able to get all the recent stats on how many seen being taken by other family members or friends.
There's the Amy Rylands case, where she disappeared and she was found hundreds of miles away. But I don't know about that case. I'm a little bit skeptical about that case. But that was at night as well. But she was found the following day, hundreds of miles from where she should have been. And she had a triangular mark on her belly button, or close to her belly button. Amy Rylands, they left the family. They had so much publicity. They left Australia, apparently moved to the UK. But they're not available to contact anymore. Amy was an exceptionally pretty girl, if you remember, blonde hair, Australian girl.
Yeah.
But unless she had somehow had that triangle tattooed on, and that triangle has appeared in so many of her abduction victims as well.
Well,
but the overall, whatever these guys are doing, whether they're aliens or non-human, whatever you want to call them, it's definitely covert. It's not something that's brazen and in your face. I mean, if that was the case, then everyone would be aware that there's UFOs and aliens, but 95% of people are completely blind to what's going on.
There was that Venus. What's his name? What's her name? Venus.
It's William Poulin's wife now, Venus Miranda.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
They got married, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. She talked about being taken during the day, I'm pretty sure. And if we go back and listen to episode we did, where she would go into the house and then they would show up during the daytime. and take her, and then they bring her back.
Yeah, she was isolated and on her own.
And also Whitley Stryberger, although I don't really like that guy because he's a book writer, and some of the stuff he comes up with, although it's really good sci-fi stuff, I'm not sure if it's actually reality. But
you only could look at Communion, and if you didn't know, it was supposedly fact. It reads like a fiction novel, and that's what Whitley Strieber was. He was he was a fiction novelist, and quite a successful one.
But there was one story he said that he had witnesses to back up his claims, where they were in the basement having a party or something, and the aliens showed up in the evening or whatever, and they saw the aliens and show up in the basement, teleport in or whatever. I can't remember the exact story of it all, but I think he was taken or something, and they saw it happen. But yeah, we really need Earl Grey on with his stats, and can fill it in.
Whitley Strieber, he had that place in the woods, and that's where it happened, didn't it? He had this holiday home, like a little shack in the woods.
But it is in remote places when they're taken in the daytime.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. It's covert.
But it does happen in the daytime. Let's see. I don't know if we can find that information. We sort of changed subject a wee bit here, but...
Yeah, I should really go back to that video, but...
Yeah. What I could type to. Even in daytime, I guess. Most kidnappings.
No, kidnappings, Paul. That's not alien abduction.
Yeah, I didn't put the word alien in. Oh.
Well, no. We're going to get airlines. Let's see. Wikipedia, forget about that.
Nova, Bud Hopkins, maybe it'll be on that, where he's been interviewed. Linda case, you talked about that.
Linda Corteil.
I think they were having an affair, weren't they?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. No. Linda Corteil, her real name is Linda Napolitano. She was married to a bit of an Italian gangster, and I think it was him that was pushing her to tell all these tall stories. And yeah, the whole thing is extremely suspect. I think Bird got mugged on that one. Because there's a book came out and it sold quite well, didn't it? So maybe Bird knew exactly what was going on, but he just went with the story anyway.
Daylight stats. Could try that, or we could try the Bing GPT and ask it, I suppose. Broad daylight, maybe I have to put it in or something.
I just typed the same thing and stuck it going. I'm getting absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you have to go to the UFO presentations. I'm pretty sure I got it on my episode anyway. It's quite a high percentage in day, and people seeing.
No, it's not. I'm telling you now, it's not a high percentage. If they happen at all, it'll be a very low percentage.
I might have to come back to that.
Can you think of one case that you know of? It's no good saying, "Oh, it was this person." You've got to name the case.
Yeah, I don't think they give that information because of privacy.
Oh.
Yeah, can't get it there, probably. What's this again? It wants us to force us to Microsoft Edge for it. Okay, let's give it a try. Bing. Bing. And chat. Let's see if the chat will know. Be interesting if it's actually got information. Broad daylight. I find this is a bit cut down, you know, compared to the OpenAI one, and it's been sort of couldn't find any. Yeah, let's see what it says. I'm sorry, but I couldn't find any reliable information on the number of alien abductions that happen in broad daylight. However, there have been some sightings of UFOs in broad daylight. So yeah,
we know that.
Pretty useless, isn't it? So unless you got this is the problem with these organizations like ERT. The information is not public, you know. ERT stats available. So that should be like public domain stuff. What's it saying? I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you mean by ERT. See, it's not that clever. What's it stand for? EBT's research something rather. Lynn, what's her name? What's it? Mandan. What's her first name? I can't remember now.
What are you talking about?
Runs ERT. EBT research, I think it stands for. Last word, I'm not sure. Well, I've just seen what it knows, but it doesn't know anything.
Yeah, you're asking the right questions.
Yeah, sometimes you better just Google search.
Anyway, get back to that interview.
Let's see what comes up. I have to put aliens in probably. Already I can't find what it means now. I should know off the top of my head. Alien, extraterrestrial research, something like that, isn't it? Terrestrial.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't got a clue what you're doing.
Research. What's the last word?
Well, you don't spell extraterrestrial like that.
Yeah, I know. I know it's going to fix it. There you go. What's the last word on it? Research and something rather. There we go. Extraterrestrial research team. There we go. So that's what it means. Why does it come up with India though? Is that Maiden? What's her name? Kathleen Madden?
Kathleen Madden.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder if we can find stats. No, see, it's not out there, you know. You can only get it from interviews and stuff. See, Google doesn't know about it because they censor it. MUFON might know about it. Oh, experiencer, not extraterrestrial. Experience resource team. Or is that something different again? It's all confusing. We're going to have to get in contact with Earl and ask him what the current stats are. But, yeah. Bing, useless. So we get back to, where we got to? Back to John. And finish off this little clip here.
The deepest part of my skepticism about Grusch's claims, and although I covered it a little bit in the first video I did on this, I want to punch the note again with a little bit more detail because I think it's deserving. And I think that this can be applied to anybody who's essentially bringing forward any other types of claims that are grandiose and nothing happens to them, meaning they don't get taken away in cuffs for spilling security secrets or whatever. I think that this is something that we have to take into consideration all the time. And it's rooted to the Security Classification Guide on UAP. And I believe that this is going to be a key part in unraveling this mystery on what truth there is behind Grusch. Now, I hope that I am wrong. However, this has bothered me since day one, so I'm going to explore it a little deeper with you. Because I got a lot of questions for my skepticism when it came to this as well. And I had brought up the guide briefly, but also the Dopser approval for Grusch being able to speak about all of his claims that he has been, with essentially clearance from the Department of Defense and their arm called Dopser. Now, a quick refresher, Dopser is the arm of the DoD that essentially reviews information from former or potentially even current DoD personnel that want to speak about something, but they are or were a clearance holder, and Dopser's job is to ensure that nothing that they talk about, no claim that they make, no program that they talk about, no anything, encroaches into classified territory. But the key is that's all they're looking for. They do not endorse the information, and they do not fact check the information. They ensure that no classified information is within somebody's manuscript or book, television, screenplay, letter, speech, PowerPoint presentation, whatever. That's what they are there for. And they are cleared at the top secret level. And their protocols and procedures allow them to look at what is being put in front of them, review it, and then make that determination. Once they make that determination, they will put on there a stamp for open publication.
But also, if they're a department and this information above the clearance level, which probably happens, then they have to reach out to their other departments to review that part and get back to them, wouldn't they? So
yeah,
I think
but you're missing the main point here. The main point is they don't fact check. So basically, Grusch could be talking a complete bunch of nonsense. They're not going to fact check it. They'll let him go ahead and tell the story. Now, it's only if he touches on something sensitive like national security that they'll say, right, you can't talk about that. Now, according to Grusch, he wanted to talk about Roswell, but they said, no, you can't talk about that.
Is it Grusch or Grusch?
Grusch, I think it is, you know.
I
But
don't know.
either way, they'll do me. They'll do me. Both versions are fine with me.
I'll play this on and I'll just go toilet myself and I'll be back in a minute.
And that's it. Now, part of Grusch's story was that, as we are told, he did this. He took his information, he took his claims, he put them all on paper on what he was going to say to apparently Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and later News Nation, put them to Dopser, and said, okay, I want to talk about this, and he got the open clearance to do it. Now, in Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal's article that was published in the debrief, that was a point that was punched. Why? Because it's interesting. Because he got the clearance. But when you dig a little bit deeper, the question should be, why did he get the clearance? If this stuff is completely highly classified at the most top secret level, entrenched into special access programs and so on and so forth, it should have never passed Dopser. And the biggest pushback on that was two things. The first being Dopser's not cleared. They're not high enough to be cleared, so they're not in the know. So to them, it's all bunk, but in reality, they're just not read into the program. Now, I'm sorry, that does not hold any weight whatsoever to me, because again, their entire job is to ensure that no classified information spills out into the open. But that does not automatically mean that they have to be read in to every single special access program or anything like that in order to determine that. Because when somebody puts information before them, I've never worked for Dopser, never worked for the DoD, despite those conspiracies about me. However, I know enough to know that they're probably going to do their due diligence to at least put some feelers out, take that information, and even though they're not cleared to, again, have carte blanche access to every special access program and government secret that has existed from the beginning of the government itself, even though that might not be the case, their policies and procedures are going to have them take that information and extend to other arms of the DoD to ensure that that information that may be better served asking Department A or Department B, hey, is this classified material? They will do that. And in order for Department A or Department B to look at it, they will, Dopser sends it over, and they don't need to read anybody in. All they have to say is, no, we are not clearing this. That goes back to Dopser. Dopser sees that and goes, okay, it's not cleared, and Grusch doesn't get his cleared for open publication stamp. Now, I'm nutshelling the protocols here, but again, they have these set procedures outlined because they have a specific mission and has had that specific mission for quite some time. So the whole, well, they're just not cleared enough, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because how many times have they seen, and I don't have an answer to this, but how many times have they seen information that they may not have been quote-unquote read in on, but ultimately got denied? Okay, so that information would be invaluable at this point, and we probably will never know the answer because it's not cleared for open publication, so we probably won't hear about that. But my entire point is you can't argue that Dopser isn't cleared enough, so they just go ahead and stamp it for approval anyway, because we'd probably, since Dopser has come around and these review processes have been developed, we likely should have seen maybe an accident or an oopsie by now, and I am not aware of a single one. So I think, based on that track record, and please, if anybody knows one, meaning one of those oopsies, let me know, but given that reality that we haven't seen that yet, my guess is the policies and procedures are fairly strong, and they couldn't really verify anything was classified. Okay, so that argument just doesn't stand with me. The other argument that is often touted about Grusch is that he can speak about this stuff even though it's highly secretive and highly classified because he's giving broad stroke details. He's not giving you a program name or a blueprint to the alien saucer or the biological makeup of an alien dead pilot as he described them or whatever.
Be interesting to see if he does come out with information in the hearing, though. That's the second hearing.
Yeah,
or whatever.
a public hearing, he won't be able to.
Yeah. But then it can be the people that were on the meeting could come out and say a summary of what they heard, couldn't they? Couldn't they say, "Oh, we heard about alien bodies, but we can't say any specific details"?
Yeah, that'll be okay.
I don't know. It depends. It depends, I guess.
I mean, he's already said it anyway, hasn't he? You may as well say it again because it's already been cleared.
Yeah, you can't say, "Oh, yeah, they're holding alien bodies at Area 51 or S4 or whatever." But when you talk about alien bodies, again, I refer back to my statement that alien to Americans normally means foreign. So, you could have bodies of dead pilots, spy pilots that they've got on ice. Maybe they all got burnt up in a crash.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand you being vague. Yeah, that no, he's being quite specific, Paul. He said, He said recovered alien spacecraft. For God's sakes, he can't be more specific than that.
It's quite still alien could mean foreign spacecraft, like Russians or Chinese.
Yeah, well,
you see what I mean? What would you say? Extra. If you instead of saying alien, maybe if they use the word extraterrestrial, I don't know.
He also used the word several times: non-human intelligence,
which could mean artificial intelligence, couldn't it?
Yes, could. Maybe ants are flying the damn things around. They're not human. I don't know.
No, but it could be artificial intelligence.
You're really stretching it now, Paul. I think it's quite clear what he's saying.
I don't know. It can be misinterpreted. Maybe he thinks it's alien bodies, blah blah blah, but maybe it's some sort of secret experiment where I don't know, they got sort of robots with AI in it that's controlling these craft. But why would you have robots? Well, obviously, if you're sending it out into space to land on solar systems, moons and things, that maybe you want something that's going to be more like humans that can move around without having to have wheels that go bad, like the rover and all that sort of stuff. But who knows? Maybe all that's sort of classified, part of the Space Force, where they have been sending out missions to Mars already, and we just don't know about it, and they can't reveal it because it's got a military component to it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of plausible. I'm not sure we can do that. I mean, we haven't gone back to them despite all the noise they're making.
I think Reagan is the first one that really put it out there, right?
Yes.
Saying that if there's another species that's coming here that we got to defend against, because that kind of suggests that they are hostile.
Even he used the words alien, but isn't there already an alien presence among us? They were his words verbatim. So you could twist that to say he was meaning a foreign power.
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't think he was, because I know his handlers used to cringe every time he talked about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no question Reagan did believe in us being visited. He had his own sighting, didn't he?
Yeah. On the plane, you mean?
Yes. And there was another time where, and I think this is baloney, but he turned up to a party and he was like an hour and a half late, and apparently the story was turned into he was abducted the other missing time.
That was Reagan, was it? Or were you talking about
Yeah,
Eisenhower?
No, that's Reagan. Yeah,
Or Truman or whatever.
I don't personally believe the story, but apparently he turned up an hour and a half late and he had no idea where he'd been, seen a UFO on the way, and there was no accounting missing time. But I don't believe it. I think it's one of those legendary UFO lore tales.
Yeah. But I think there's enough stats now that proves that there's something happening that's not to do with humans, right? Millions of people now have made up-close personal sightings.
Oh, yeah, no question.
You know, of these craft that had capabilities beyond their technology at that time.
Yeah.
Going back to the 50s, you know, or maybe even sooner, but
maybe even further.
And then you got the abductions on top of that, which
and you've got the radar visual cases. You've got the trace evidence cases.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, we don't have a lot of physical evidence, but we do have some.
Yeah. I think just the amount of data and stats out there proves that it has to be. And of course, these people come from all walks of life too. Some of them are part of the FBI and CIA and NSA and all that. Yeah. And that's kind of stats that ERT has. And, you know, maybe they've got 1,000 people from NSA. They've got their own personal accounts, but each of them doesn't know the other people have been abducted in the organisation either. Right? But how do they get away with the lie detector tests, you know? Have you said anything to blah, 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 and pass the lie detector test? Because they get regular lie detector tests to make sure they're not leaking out vital information to the public or telling the family or whatever, you know. So I'm not sure how they'd get around that. Have you told anything that you haven't told us, you know, to someone else? Depends how they word the questions, I guess. But it makes sense that the government would be happy for disinformation out there if they want to hide this big secret, and it puts doubt in people's minds, and people are crackpots or have been lying to make money and they're just a shill, and then all the real cases just fade away, right? Just the ones that we talked about, you know, the Japanese pilot one. He disappeared after that. Pretty went in dark, didn't it? After the initial interviews and all that, and he lost his career.
Who now?
The Japanese pilot.
Oh, yeah, the Tsuruhushi, yeah.
Yeah, it went pretty dark pretty quick after that. You know, he did the interviews and he got laughed at and all that sort of stuff. He lost his job and went into probably a depression state, you know, and went dark and off the grid.
Well, he did get his job back. They never sacked him completely. They just put him in an office job.
Yeah, well, that's not very good, though.
If you're an airline pilot, it doesn't pay to be talking out about these things. It just doesn't. And I think now that those laws have been relaxed, I think we'll find that more and more people are going to come out in the future, and that's a good thing. That's one good thing that has come about in the last 6 years since 2017. At least we can have the conversation now about wearing a bag over our head.
Yeah,
it wasn't always the case before. If you've got a career or a security clearance, that it just doesn't pay to talk out of school.
Yeah.
I mean, you're better off not reporting the incident, let alone speaking to the media.
People would think you're crazy when you talk about it, though. That you're abducted. They think you just lost your mind, or.
Oh yeah, I mean, a UFO sighting is one thing, but an abduction, that's quite another.
Even when I talked about what happened to me, it's kind of embarrassing. But I'll probably never get a regular job again, put it that way, because they'll do a background check and say, oh, you've been running this YouTube channel and you're saying this. Oh. We'll carry on. Was there anything else that John talks about here? It's quite a long episode. We've probably used quite a lot of it. Oh, yeah. You're talking about these documents. Yeah, we'll just go a wee bit further.
Whatever. So he's absent those classified details, but he can broad stroke talk about it with no problem because that's not classified. That, to me, is also a horrible argument. And to me, that is easily also dismissed. Now, that's where I now bring up the security classification guide. When you talk about highly classified programs, and you talk about these highly classified programs without specific detail, they're still classified. I have long used the stealth fighter example just to kind of make it easy. Back in the day when the stealth fighter was never known to the general public, and the F-117 was in development and even flying for however many years that it was, you could not give broad stroke details about an aircraft flying in the sky that was essentially describing the F-117, and that's okay. You couldn't do that, right? I mean, there was leaks all the time. Aviation Week magazine was notorious for getting these leaks about what was in development. However, you still couldn't talk about that, even again in broad strokes. And it's because the details about a classified program or classified piece of technology, the facts surrounding whatever we are talking about are classified in themselves, meaning it's inherently classified, meaning you can't go around describing stealth technology before it was acknowledged, and just because you didn't give the program name it was involved in or the blueprint and chemical composition of how it was made, that doesn't mean you can still talk about it. And to prove that, it's very easy. We can use the Security Classification Guide for UAP. Now, if you don't know what this is, the Security Classification Guide is something that I had received back in, let me pull up the PDF here so we have it, back in December of 2021. And this was a big get for me because this was the first time it had ever been released to the public. But it also proved what we kind of knew already, but now it was definitive that there was a guide on how to classify UAP. What was classified, what wasn't, at what level of classification. And UAP isn't the only thing with a classification guide. There are many things with classification guides. It defines the secrecy about programs and or topics. In this case, UAP. Now, when you scroll down, this is what I had received. And I have a whole video on this, so please, if you're curious about this, make sure that you check out that video because I go into much greater detail. But you can see that it was prepared in April of 2020. It was approved by Scott Bray. Yes, he's the one that was at that first UAP hearing in front of Congress. He was there with Ronald Moultrie. He approved it in April of 2020. So this thing has been around for a while. And again, just to nutshell it, this defines the secrecy behind UAP.
Let's see all the
now,
blackouts.
You'll see, I'm not going to read it to you because, again, that video goes into much more detail, but this is what I want to focus in on. These are essentially the definitions of what and what isn't classified. And you'll see here that they're not blueprints, they're not photographs, they're not anything but the facts surrounding UAP. For example, the term UAP. Well, we all know it. It's not a classified term. So that is spelled out that the classification is U, or unclassified. 1B, the fact that Navy pilots and other Department of Navy personnel have witnessed and that certain DON or Department of Navy technical systems have detected at unspecified times and places UAPs. That fact considered unclassified. Another one, the fact that the frequency of UAP sightings has increased in recent years without any further...
But what if they call it a different name? Instead of using UAP, call it a buzzword like Mickey Mouse or Santa Claus or some other name like MAUP or whatever.
No, that's a classified name. Talking about a classified program. Can't do it.
Yeah, but now that's come out, they're probably given it another name, so it becomes harder to find in the searches.
Yeah, it's still gonna leave a paper trail, Paul.
Like saying in a document that UAP is now called this. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that he can't talk about anything about these programs. He's treading on eggshells, and that's what John's explaining here.
But what I'm saying is
Look,
the
what John is
UAP
saying-
term is out there now, but it didn't used to be. But then what else, other terms do they use to describe alien technology that we don't know about still?
Well, of course, yeah.
And why is the UAP term now declassified? Was it because of what Lou Elizondo did?
Well, no, it was never classified in the first place.
Yeah, so people didn't know what it was called, right? So when they searched on UFO, nothing would come up. But if they searched on UAP, they would have got hits in their search request for FOIA. So what else is in there, terminology, that we don't know about?
There could be plenty of stuff.
Yeah.
That's always been the case.
And it might not be classified, but we just don't know what it's called. It's a bit like ATIP and ORSAP. We didn't know what it was called, but we do now. But what other terms have they got in their military forms talking about this stuff that we still don't know about?
Well, that's always been the case.
So they talk about aerial phenomenon, but there might be, a lot of it might be undersea, so they might be using different terminology for that. So it might be undersea phenomenon, USP maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, they've changed. The UAP is still the same name. It's still the same acronym, but the name has changed. It was
not really, because it's not aerial, it's undersea.
It has. Listen, yeah, it was unidentified aerial phenomena. Yeah, now that is describing something that's flying, isn't it? Aerial. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying.
Whoa! Let me finish. Now it's called unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's
no.
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes.
No. That's no. I've covered that in the previous live. That's what NASA calls it. It's not what the military call it. They use aerial, and NASA uses anomalous.
Hold on. Okay, I'll have a check.
I think you'll find out because I found all the documentation on it. And you can. NASA didn't call it the same as what the military were calling it. Because I guess they're in space, so they've got to call it anomalous because it's not really flying, right? It's not in the atmosphere. So they had to come up with a different word. Even though it's the same letters. And that's where it got confusing.
Yeah.
And then that's what I'm saying. Maybe there's also another term for the ones that are in the sea, which we don't know about, and it might not be classified yet. So what other words in the military?
I think that as well. Just because the name doesn't specify it doesn't mean to say they can't investigate it.
Yeah. It's called hiding in plain sight with words, I think.
Yeah, of course, yeah, it's always been the case.
Yeah. So he's saying these ones have been declassified to be used. Doesn't mean there's not other words out there that are not declassified that talk about alien technology. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyway, we'll just carry on.
Information regarding when, where, or how often sightings have been reported. That fact, unclassified. I'll read one more. The fact that Navy has an ongoing effort to gain knowledge and insight into the nature and origins of UAPs, as well as their operations, capabilities, performance, and or signatures. That fact is unclassified. You can see here that there's a couple more. The last one talks about the task force mission. The fact that the task force mission is to detect, analyze, catalog, consolidate, and exploit non-traditional aerospace vehicles / UAP posing an operational threat to U.S. national security.
So all this down here on this table is censored, which is kind of interesting. So that could be talking about the undersea ones right there, and we won't know because it's been censored from the government.
We don't know.
And avoid strategic.
Yeah. So all that there has been released, but all that down there is still yet to be released.
Surprise. That fact is unclassified. So again, you're not seeing blueprints, photographs, videos, or anything of great detail other than the facts surrounding what is, and you can tell by
look
here,
all that there.
a highly classified issue within the United States military. When you get past those few facts on the first page that are all unclassified, you get to all of this.
So what's all this stuff referring to? So we're not going to get any HD camera footage from the airplane pods, I don't think, unless something major happens. And this stuff here, back in 2021, he said. So it's not that long ago, and it's still classified.
Now, we don't know what is under all of this. We have a header here: intelligence collection, exploitation, analysis, and products. Underneath that, all redacted. You can see there, all national security reasons on why it's redacted. Look, it even keeps going. Now, what does this tell us? Even though we can't read what's under the black, what does this tell us? Well, let me take it back to Grusch. If anything that Grusch is claiming, like dead alien pilots, like captured non-human craft, all of that is connected to UAP. I mean, he used the term, that's just what the whole topic is all about. So those facts, the realization that, again, dead pilots, alien craft, that we have all of this stuff, wreckage, debris, all that kind of stuff. If that is true, it's under this. It's under all this black, right? I think we can all agree to that. That if what Grusch is saying, let's get beyond the debate. If what he is saying, it would be under here. Because the entire point of this guide in the classified world is to define classification for UAP. So if Grusch is telling the truth, that stuff would have to be.
And that's why we're not going to get any evidence because of that there. Because he can't reveal it. He can say they're hiding it, and it's his word against their word. You know?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. We'd have to make sweeping changes
to
the classification laws before they could release information like that. And it's all going to take
unless
time.
would Congress be able to overthrow it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they don't have to tell the Congress everything, Paul. Do you know what I mean? Just they can hide stuff from them.
So that's the whole point. All these hearings end up being nothing burgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
People think, disclosure's coming. No. It's just smoke and mirrors again.
yeah. It's nowhere near disclosure time.
Yeah. And it's got to be a good reason why they're hiding it. Maybe you can't keep saying it's because they don't want the information going out to China and Russia, because, as I said earlier about the landmass, they must have crashes as well, and they must be covering up as well.
Yeah. But let me just explain one thing. Just because you see that blacked out area there and it looks really ominous and you think, whoa, what are they hiding? The classification system in the United States is silly. If they had fish and chips for breakfast, they'd classify it, you know? So what you could be seeing underneath there wouldn't tell you anything anyway. It could be really trivial stuff because it's been over-classified.
Yeah.
Or it could be something really juicy and we just don't know.
Yeah. Oh, UFO Jesus will make an episode about it. I'm pretty sure. But
yeah. God, yeah, no.
But we're just being practical about this stuff, and we're not going to get our hopes up on all this whistleblowers, because we know it can go straight to a bottomless pit, and we're back to square one again. I think maybe if someone like Marcel, or someone that's related to Marcel, digs up a cache of stuff that he stored away, which was definitely alien technology, right? That could change the whole thing, because the government doesn't know about it.
That's right, it'd be out of their control. The hand would be forced then.
Yeah, but this arrow thing saying hand in all your alien material and you won't be convicted. Do you trust them to take that material and hand it back or whatever, or make it public? No, I wouldn't. It'd be like you would want to maybe hand in some of it and say that's all of it and actually lie and keep some of it just in case, and see where it goes. Maybe one part of the whole collection, because there was rumors that there's meant to be some ranch, not where the debris of the Roswell crash happened, that they buried some into a cave and sealed the entrance off with explosives. It's going to be some sort of family secret. Family secret. Now, what show was that on? It was on some
TV show.
Yeah, it was on some TV show where they go to the ranch and try and look down holes and stuff. But that doesn't make sense to me. If you had a UFO crash and you knew the government was collecting it all and suppressing it, wouldn't you just keep a bit of it buried in the backyard somewhere? You know, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I know they could use metal detectors, but if you got it in place it in a cavern and put rocks over it, they're not going to be able to detect it, especially with the old technology they had back in those days, the metal detectors. They might be able to do it now with LiDAR and satellites now, you know, like they're trying to do on Skinwalker Ranch, to see if there's certain chemicals and stuff in the ground that don't make any sense. But yeah, just carry on. The mouse is playing up.
That's just how this works. And yet all of it is redacted. Ergo, it would be classified. Translation, Dobser would never let this fly. And since it was dealing with UAP, we could probably deduce that Dobser went to a couple of different places. Since Grusch had claimed he was from the UAP task force, then the Navy would likely be a place that they would extend out to and say, hey, we've got somebody who wants to talk about XYZ, and the Navy would come back. Again, doesn't have to read Dobser into anything. Obviously, arms of the DOD would be places that they would extend out to and say, hey, we've got a guy who wants to talk about this. Can he talk about this? And obviously, he got the stamp of approval. Yet, all of this, all the other details, other than the select few that I read to you, and there's like one or two more that I skipped, but they're pretty non-exciting. We've known it for years. All unclassified. Everything else is classified. And I'm running into that problem when dealing with UAP-related requests, that if I'm not dealing with those few things like pilots seeing something and those very basic facts, everything is coming back classified. Yet Grusch was able to talk about this. This is a huge problem for me, because you can't look at this, a proven, factual, irrefutable document, you can't look at this and understand the true, deep classification nature behind UAP, and then turn around and look at Grusch and go, ha, I bet he's totally fine to talk about all this. Those things do not go hand in hand. Now, I can smell the third excuse that people are going to throw at me when they hear that I am saying, hey, look, this classification guide defines all secrecy. That everybody is left in the dark. Anybody who played a role into this, which we do know was UAP task force members. I do believe I know who wrote this. I don't think that...
So that's the problem. If it was like Grusch come out like that person on WikiLeaks, what's the name of the person, the military person that leaked it, that is now a female, what's her name? If it was like a WikiLeaks dump, right, where you released all these documents talking about aliens that's not been through the classification, and then it gets leaked out to the press, that would be life-changing, I reckon, in this field, world-changing. But this is not what's happening. We got some guy that's talking second-hand stories, but it's not doing a WikiLeaks dump of all these documents and photographs and videos, because that would change the ufology once and for all, and disclosure would have to happen then. Which basically what happened with all the spying, NSA spying was doing with Snowden. He did the dump. And then you got all the...
Julian Assange.
Yeah. What was the name of the woman's name now?
Oh, I know who you mean. I can't remember her name either, Paul.
Yeah, it's on it's on the front of my forehead. As soon as I hear it, I say, that's it. But people out there will know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
She's now released. But sounds like she was really Chasey Manning or something like that, was it?
That sounds close.
Something like that. But yeah, if David was like that person and then got arrested for it, then we're onto something really good. But in this case, it's not like anything like that. I think people are just getting overexcited.
Well, if you look at Assange and you look at Snowden, those guys really suffered. Yeah. But what?
And still are.
Look at all the UFO, and still are. And look at all the. I think Tracy Manning is right. She suffered as well. She went to jail. No, nothing is happening to these UFO whistleblowers. Why? Maybe because they haven't revealed anything that's sensitive, anything that's not BS.
Yeah, we figured it out, Shogun. Chelsea, Manning. My mouse is playing up still.
Chelsea Manning.
Yeah. So, I forgot what I was going to say now. She's called, Reno. Yeah, Reno. They come out of my head eventually. I knew it was in there somewhere. But if it was anything like that, then we'd be into something really good. Yeah. And we could really believe it. But the way it's been done with Ross Cohart and all the other stuff we're now finding out.
Having said that, now that these whistleblowers have been given immunity, that should allow them to come out like Snowden and Manning. And be able to tell the story with impunity. But
not evidence, not the videos and stuff like it's leaked out with those other guys, right? And documents.
That's not a leak. Yeah.
It's not the same. It's still not going to be the same. unless they want to risk their lives. And it sounds like they don't. They're a bit scared of their lives being threatened. So does that mean that these first leakers might actually do have their hands on some documents and videos and got it buried somehow?
There's no point in them coming forward just to tell a big fancy tale.
Well, at least we think so.
Nobody's going to stand up and listen unless you've got tangible evidence. Unless there's tangible evidence, it won't move on. It won't progress. It will not move forward. Simple.
Yeah. Unless you're being filmed, I don't know. How would it work? Say you got a video of an alien autopsy or something, where they're taking it out the craft or whatever.
Yeah.
Would people still believe it? Or would they think it's like the alien autopsy film that was hoax?
Exactly.
How would you be able to verify that, whether that was other people that are coming out, they're actually in the video, but then you'd think maybe they're just lying or just acting in that video. I don't know, even if you did have video come out and documents come out, that people will still believe it. What would you need to make it really believable to someone like Mick West?
I don't think that's even possible.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, because I think he'd turn around in the end and say the government were lying.
Yeah, so how would you...
Otherwise he's going to lose so much face. He'd have to bury himself away in a cabin or something, you know what I mean?
I think you'd literally have to have like hundreds or thousands of people suddenly come out.
Yeah.
And have different videos or photos they've got. And then it would be so much that the government would have to finally release all information that's blacked out because there's so many people come out with the stuff. I think maybe that's the only way it's going to happen, disclosure. They're literally going to have hundreds and hundreds of people come forward. And also other countries. I think other countries would be a big part of this. That UK would finally come out, and Canada would come out, and then Australia would come out, and Africa.
The Five Eyes would come out first, yeah, and then everyone would follow.
And then all the eastern countries like China and Russia and India and all that.
Oh, I think they'd keep that information for themselves.
Then there would be no stopping it, and then they'd have to talk about it and reveal everything they knew that they talked about on underground secret bases.
And of course, the bottom line is as well that the disclosure is in the hands of the aliens, or the non-human intelligence, or whatever this phenomenon is. It's in their hands. You know, if they put a great big craft twice the size of an aircraft carrier over every city in the world, and it's going to be fairly difficult to deny then, isn't it? So you never know, it might come that way, and that would be scary as hell if it did. Yeah, Shogun says soft disclosure. I think we've already had that, you know, soft disclosure. UFOs are real and we don't know what they are, and I can't really see them going much further than that at this point, you know. I think whatever we get here on is going to be, you know, more of this drip. I mean, this all could be a ploy, we don't know, just to see how people react. I
think there'll be a selective few in the world that always know that aliens and UFOs are real, or the ones that have had their own personal experiences, but it won't go any further than that, you know.
And those who've done the due diligence and researched the topic thoroughly, but they don't have to really have their own experience, because the evidence is there.
Unless the aliens, like you say, they like to be secretive and work in the dark, unless they come out and landed in
That's what I'm saying
a public
about
place
putting-
in every country in the world at the same time, and then there's no stopping disclosure, right?
No,
Because then
you
you'd
can't
have all the
deny
news
that.
channels filming it 24/7 and trying to get interviews with the leaders of the aliens and whether they're going to take over a planet and all that. It'd be like one of those sci-fi movies.
Yeah, but I'll repeat myself again now. But looking at the patterns in UFO history and abduction history, I don't think that's going to happen because whatever they're doing, it's covert.
Or it's just plain evil and they can't reveal the information about it because they got no control over it.
I actually worry about that sometimes, Paul, that this could all be not for the good of mankind at all.
No.
I really do. If they were here to benefit us, well, I tell you what, they've done nothing of the sort, have they? We've exploded over 2,000 nuclear devices now. Yes, they've observed, but they haven't stopped a single one.
That's right.
Oh, and you got people saying, "Oh, the aliens won't let us have a nuclear war." Well, don't bet on that, Buster.
Yeah, well, maybe they don't want conventional nuclear because it leaves radiation behind. But maybe they want us to wipe ourselves out, so they can take it over.
Yep.
Maybe they can't take over the planet because humans are so tricky.
Well, we could be. Yeah, well, it's not that we could be useful to them. Maybe it's a race that's become. They need our DNA for some reason. You don't know because they seem to take a very interest in our sexual organs. How many times have you heard of ovaries being taken and sperm being taken? But not once do you ever hear of an alien checking your heart out. Now that's quite an important organ, isn't it? But no, we don't seem too interested in that. And this whole thing about anal probing, I mean, what does it do? Well, of course, it stimulates the oh god, I can't remember what it's called down there now, and you get an erection.
Prostate,
of course. Yeah, always forget these things in life, really obvious things.
Yeah.
Shoguns, seen families fall out, argue over this censorship. Yeah. There's a lot of families that have had abduction experience and it's broke the family up, I was talking to a girl recently, it split the family completely.
Yeah. Okay. Is that in Wales, was it? Or
No. I'll say the place name is Missouri, but I most certainly won't mention the girl's name. But it started when she was basically a toddler when they were fishing in a remote area, and there was missing time. They never went fishing again. Family burst up, and unfortunately for her, the experience has continued almost up until the present day. I think the last experience she had was maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and she is now around middle 70s.
Right. Yeah. So this makes you wonder why there's so many shill UFO channels when there's material out there and people out there that you could bring attention to and talk about without revealing all their personal details, of course. That's might make more people come forward with the same similar accounts, right? And maybe all this stuff that's now public on TV, maybe that will happen. Maybe more people will come forward with their accounts. And maybe there's someone's got some decent footage out there that will be released, Maybe James Fox will probably try and buy it off them. But that's the problem. All these movie producers.
Logan Paul.
Yeah. They're just going to ruin it. When it should be just open and free. And I think MUFON has ruined it as well. They've got some, as we know, they've got some really credible reports. But they can't reveal it. Because they haven't got permission. So, depends on the people if they want to release that information or not to the public. And they're just holding on to it for some reasons. Maybe to make money out of it, or maybe because they just don't want the truth to get out themselves. Or maybe maybe someone got to them saying if you release that footage, then something's going to happen to you. That's another possibility, you know. I'm pretty sure we all are being monitored and seeing what we're revealing. That may be classified to the military people, but maybe people that revealing the information to us.
I'm of the belief that even the powers that be, even the deep states, still don't know what this is, you know. I'm not one of these people that believe, they know everything about these aliens, where they're from, what their agenda is, etc. I don't believe that. And if they do, and it was something nefarious, not for our benefit, then how the hell could they tell us? I think they've got indications, I think they've got clues, but I don't think they know. I don't think they have the whole picture. Just pieces of the puzzle, like we do.
Yeah, the universe is a big mystery, and we got a lot to learn and explore. Just like when they used to think if you went too far out to sea, you'd fall off the edge of the earth, right? We know better now. But there's still people out there believe in the flat earth. And it has ice walls around. And we live in a glass dome or whatever it is. Like one of those things you shake, what they call them, snow globes or whatever. Do we play more of this Greenwater one, or do we wrap up, or what?
Yeah, you should wrap up. We've been going nearly 4 hours. Sorry.
I think it's only 3 hours, isn't it?
We've passed 3.5. We're going on to 4 hours now. I don't mind if you play the rest of this, and then we'll call it a day then.
Okay. Fair enough. I've not had anything to eat myself. It's 3:30, coming up to 4, and we started We started at 1:45 or so, wasn't it? Oh no, we started at 12:30 almost. So that's 3 hours. We get just over 3 hours. To you, that's probably long, but for me, that's just like midway. Because normally you do like 5 hours and 7 hours strings, and I got to put chapters in and break it up so people can watch it. You know.
I'm starting to get brain fade now.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember prostate.
It's, the people that watch my channel keep on watching, because we do lots of different topics and break it up in different ways. And
you can catch it.
No, I'll wrap up because my stomach's a bit rumbly at the moment, and I've not had anything to eat.
Mine too.
And
past as well.
And I'm not sure why Shogun's still up, because he's in UK too, and it must be pretty late over there. What is it? Coming up to 4 a.m. or something?
It's coming up to 4:45 a.m.
Oh yeah, you're an hour more ahead of us, aren't you? Anyway, we'll just finish up this here.
But that is public yet. I can't prove it yet. I aim to. I am 99.9% sure I know who wrote it. But I'm not trying to play secrets here. I can't prove it, so I'm not going to make the claim yet. But I believe that I am close to doing so. However, there was another UAP task force member who claims to have helped write this. That was Travis Taylor. So he has openly said that. I don't have any documentation to back that up. I also don't have any reason to disbelieve him. So fine. So Dr. Travis Taylor played a role in making this. But we also don't know who else outside of the task force may have been in charge of or overlooking this. So that third excuse that I could just see, the writing is on the wall that people are going to throw at me. Well, all of them are just in the dark. The UAP task force was not read in as Grusch claimed. So Travis Taylor wouldn't know about all of that. He wouldn't put that information in the security guide and so on. But I don't have any type of example in the history of security classification guides or anything like this that I've found yet. Anybody who has one, send it on, where there are multiple security classification guides. That security classification guide is used at this level, but then there's another security classification guide used at the top level that deals with dead alien pilots and alien.
So Shogun's just brought up a point here why aliens would come all this way and crash, and that sounds like a Mick West sort of statement.
Yeah, but it's a damn good point as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you traverse the universe, and I mean, you know, you come all that way just to crash in a desert. It does seem implausible, you have to say, but it could have happened maybe on one or two occasions. I don't know. Maybe there's multiple crashes. I just don't know.
But the thing is, we don't know if they come across the universe or they sort of jump across the universe through stargates, portals or whatever, or if they even come across the universe and come from a multiverse. So there's different aspects of it. And did they really crash, or were they hindered and shot down by military weapons that they weren't expecting?
Well, what if the vehicle, their vessel, had basically passed its sell-by date, and they just dumped it here? Maybe they're litterbugs.
Or maybe, like us, things break down.
Yeah.
And so they just park it. They don't actually crash it, or maybe they bury it to try and hide it. And they get picked up by another craft. And then maybe humans or military find it, you know. But yeah, it's all sorts of scenarios, you know. Maybe they made mistakes and crashed it. Or the guidance system went down that crashed.
We don't know. Maybe they drink alcohol or something similar.
That's right.
That's a possibility. For all we know, the pilot was pissed.
Maybe they get drunk on cow blood.
Yeah, inebriated on cow's liver or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Too many possibilities to rule anything out, to be honest.
Yeah, so there's probably good reasons why they would crash, you know. So
I mean, Shogun says that Americans with a gun shoot at everything. There's no doubt they have shot at UFOs. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we know that because we had reports from Hangar One's TV show, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where they claimed that they were going along a river in Vietnam, was it? And UFO was following them, and they launched a rocket launcher at it, and it turned around and come back at them because they could take control of it. But they were firing machine guns at it, and it was ricocheting off the skin or the shield. I think that's what I remember from the TV show. We'd have to probably re-watch it again and have a listen again. But I think Blackvault.
Yeah,
carry on.
Yeah, we know that Iranian pilot Jalfivi, wasn't he? Or I think it was his name. In 1976, he was ordered to shoot down, but the second he hit the play button, his whole electronic system was shut down. And we know too that Milton Torres was given a shoot down order, but he couldn't execute the order. it shot off as soon as you got a lock on it. So there's no doubt they've launched these things.
Yeah.
But I don't know if our weapons would be sufficient to damage their craft. I don't really see that. And during, sorry, I forgot to mention that during the Foo Fighters' Second World War, they opened fire many times, and what they said was happening is that the object, the UFO, or these balls of light, as they often were just absorbing the gunfire, and it was completely impervious to whatever they were doing. It was just sitting there absorbing, because normally they'd see the tracer bullet. If it was something transparent, pass through it, come out the other side. But that wasn't happening, which is very interesting.
But if it had like plasma filled around it, the plasma would be like 2,800 degrees Celsius. It simply would melt the bullets.
Which would make it appear as if they were being absorbed. Yeah.
So there's all sorts of scientific possibilities there as well. But also the UFO over LA event, that was the same one. They were shooting lots of weapons at it, and it was taking it all. Although I think someone said some shells come down near a beach or something, but didn't it simply wander over the city, then wander back out to sea? So what was that? So that's another one that's sort of gone to the waistline, waste away. I mean, all these great stories of these UFO cases, and they sort of fade away, and this get repeated again in another UFO documentary or something. Now, we only got 3 likes on this show so far, so I know that we've had people come and go all night. It says on the stats here that we've had, let's see, according to Google, 28 views and only 3 likes. What's going on there? So people drop it. It says the average user. Yeah, hang on. Average user is 28 minutes. So people have been watching for 28 minutes. So we had 28 people, and the average viewer attention is 28 minutes. You'd expect people to be chatting on the side and hitting a like on this show. So we got a lot of lurkers on this channel.
Yeah, but what people don't like is when you kind of debunking this stuff, you know?
We're not debunking it. We're sort of questioning it, and we believe it won't. Most likely won't go anywhere.
I'm not going all in with this whistleblower stuff, because I don't want to tell people, disclosure's coming in July with these meetings at the end of the month, apparently, because they're going to be just disappointed. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Mind you, there are people like Steve Cambion that gets like 2,000 views and hundreds of likes, and he's debunking it. So, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing that they don't sort of take me more seriously, because I do try and back up everything that I sort of show people, and I do leave stuff open. Like if I can't debunk it, say the footage is not good enough, I leave it as a list of things, possible, balloon or hoax or UFO, Sometimes the footage is not good enough to conclusively say what it is. Hey, we got a donation.
Shogun donated £2 through Super Chat.
Thanks, mate. I wasn't actually talking about people donating. I was just talking about people interacting. Because the channel actually does get better if people comment on the video underneath and hit a like and all that sort of business, right? What happened there? The background disappeared. Yep. Okay, it played the little emanation, but we'll just finish this off here, see if there's anything else we can talk about.
Let's go to the end now. It's
Craft
only 8 minutes
that we have in our possession. I'm sorry, I don't know of any, nor do I think that makes sense. So these types of excuses to fall back on to kind of help crutch Grusch's claims along, they actually don't help in the long run at all, because it's going against a documented historical fact about how all these things work. And if people want to fall back on that and say that this is the first time in history that any of that has ever happened, but I can absolutely see it happening, great, but you're going to have to try and prove it somehow. And that's the biggest problem that I have with Grusch's claims. Again, it's not that he's making it all up and he's some big fat liar. No, he could absolutely believe what he's telling you, that he could have absolutely heard from whomever he heard it from, the claims that he's stating. But look at all the evidence on what kind of throws a monkey wrench into the wheel of this being true. And I think that there's a lot going against it, which again is the root of my skepticism. But as we inch closer, I hope anyway, to Gillibrand's effort to get Grusch in front of the Senate and in front of committees under oath, I can't wait, because I want to hear what he has to say. And I understand he may not be able to name names in that setting. That's not what I'm interested in. But if they give him that ability to go under oath and to essentially speak freely and to have that immunity, and the whistleblower language is solid, and there's claims that Grusch played a role in helping write that language. Okay, I mean, if that's true, again, a little wonky there that Grusch would be in the office, helping, but fine. Okay, I mean, I'm not gonna chastise it. So, if that's the case and he wrote it, then the language here that's either coming or is already on the book should be okay for him to feel okay to speak. So I hope he doesn't have a problem with cameras. I hope that he goes in front of everybody, and that I hope that he tells everybody the reality of what's going on. But in the end, this is what kind of worries me about the deepening of secrecy behind this, coupled with the claim that Dopser just signed off on it. No problem. Yeah, David, you want to talk about this? Not a problem. You're cleared for open publication, whatever. That doesn't seem right to me. But I want to close this video with one extra thought that nobody's really talking about. And I hope that it becomes an outdated fact that's in my video now, but I hope it quickly becomes outdated, because I want this to change. What David Grusch had submitted to Dopser is being hidden from you and I. Why is that? And I want to know. I think that there's something there. I think that there are going to be more questions to be asked. Now, we do know about page 1. That has been released just because they showed it on screen at News Nation. So on one of the pieces, they did kind of what I call a graphic spread. And so they took the documents and they spread them like a fan and made a graphic out of it. The only one you could see was page 1. Now, that has been released. That is out there. I know Mick West actually contacted the network and got a clearer graphic of it. But that was it. They would not release any other page that they got because it was not shown on screen, and it's not up to them to release it. That's the best of how I understand that played out. And that's totally understandable. I get it. So now back to David Grusch. Why wouldn't he release this? Obviously, the journalists saw it. I would hope anyway, but they saw what he submitted to Dopser and was cleared. I got that impression from the reporting of Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal. So if they could see it and News Nation graphic artists could see it, the general public should see it. And I think it's important to see exactly what David Grusch submitted to Dopser, because if it has all of what he has claimed in there, again, that doesn't completely endorse it from the DOD, but at least we now have confirmation that what was told to us was true. However, they're hiding it from us, and that's what I don't understand. And I've asked, I've reached out, I've tagged them, I've I've said this quite a few times publicly already, and other people are asking too. Can't you show the entire thing that David Grusch is cleared to talk about? There's no reason not to show it. He's cleared. So what's the issue? And I think that the bottom line will be there will be more questions generated once we see it than answers deduced from that document.
Oh.
And I don't.
Oh, we'll leave it there and see if he's put out anything else since.
He hasn't.
He hasn't?
No.
Okay. I'll just post a link to the show if you want to re-watch it without interruptions. Blackvault. Go and check it out and sub to him, I guess. He's one source that we can claim that is not a shill UFO channel.
Yeah.
We had some other people that we sort of liked. I used to like Martin Willis' show, UFO podcast, but yeah, he's had some dubious people on, and he sort of believes everything that he hears lately, from Lehto especially.
It's a little bit hit and miss recently. I mean, he's had Kaz Clark on in the past, and he had Gary Jones on recently talking about a case in Denby, but Gary Jones is the one who wrote that Penturk book, UFO Crashing Penturk, which is the biggest load of codswallop I've actually ever heard in my life. So, and I actually talked to Martin, and I sent him some information on that case. And it was about a 20 to 30 minute read, and Martin said it was too long. I'll have to skim it.
That's why he hasn't had you on the show by now, actually.
Oh, he doesn't want me on the show, for God's sakes. Well, I'd probably get kicked off. I'd probably slip up.
But he had UFO Jane on there 2 times now.
Yeah. I mean, I know, but it's all about being in that UFO social club, you see.
Yeah, you got to be on the right side. You got to be on the left side of ufology, as Goof says.
He's probably a little bit. He's probably a bit correct on that one, to be honest.
Yeah, Goof. That's the thing with Goof. He's not always wrong. You know, some of the stuff he says is bang on, but
I know.
he's a frustrating guy. He gets a lot of stuff wrong, though, really, really wrong. But he gets some stuff correct. You know.
Yeah, he gets when he gets it wrong. My God, he gets it wrong in style.
Yeah. And he lies, and then him working with third phase is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, it's made his channel big, and he's got those people that watch third phase watch him, you know, and he's making money out of it. So
yeah,
but he's become less credible than he used to be.
I still have a lot of time for Martin Willis. He had Kevin Randall on recently, and if you haven't seen that, I'd recommend anyone go back, because he's talking about this.
But you got to be careful that the people he has on, some of them are pretty dubious.
Yes, some of them are.
But there's one that I recommend that people watch. But I find Martin a wee bit hard to follow along, because I'm not sure if he's sort of getting a wee bit of dementia or whatever, but he does seem a bit slow in presenting stuff and talking and trying to get the words out. He's a bit like me. He gets stumbles over his words a wee bit and tries.
I don't particularly find that with him, but what I do find is that, and I think he'd say this himself, he's not really a ufologist. He's a show host with an interest in the subject.
So he's a bit like Lou Elizondo then. He's got an interest. He's got an interest in it, a hobby. Yeah, it's not his main thing in life. It's a side thing. But yeah, least he's called out a few people on air. That's got him in trouble, like Secure Team and Third Phase. And he's he's really careful now not to mention those names because people will unsub from him and stop watching him. But yeah, that's the problem. Is how can you tell the truth without upsetting people? You either got to play along like most people do on these UFO shows and try not to upset people, but it's too hard to do if you want to talk about the truth. You know,
you're lucky to be alive, Martin. He had a quadruple bypass recently.
Who was that?
Martin Willis had a quadruple bypass.
Oh, I never heard that.
Oh God, yeah, and it was the left anterior artery that was going. Yeah, that's what they call a widowmaker. If that goes, well, even if you were at the hospital door, you probably still wouldn't make it.
Yeah,
he was having chest pain and pains running down his left arm, which is an ominous sign, and he kind of ignored it, thought it was wind.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So when he did go to the hospital, he had to go into surgery immediately. It was that urgent, so.
Okay.
Lucky boy. Yeah, lucky boy.
So that might be why he struggles with some of the words. He may have had some midi strokes actually, and not even realised it.
I don't think so, but you never know. But I'm glad to see him back and looking well now.
Okay. I know Gufon gives him a hard time, says he's racist. Was it him? No, he was saying that about Rojas, his mate. Was calling him a racist.
God's sake.
I think there's some arrogance, though, in ufology, and I think people knew about Gufon, that he doesn't realise that everybody thinks he's an idiot. So they don't want to talk to him. It's not being racist or anything. It's just doesn't want to know you. But yeah, talking the truth and saying stuff that they don't find the same with, like you might say something that they believe in may upset them. And that's what I do. I tend to upset people because I'm really strong in what I present. And they might believe in certain UFO cases, and I might say, no, I don't really believe that one. It's going to upset you, But normally I try and back it up with why I believe it's not a real case. But there are real cases. There's cases out there that I do believe are pretty solid, and have been covered up, Yeah, and yeah, so Jack Valet is, more I find out about him, the less I sort of hold him up as a hero worship. Now I see that
his early work was good.
Yeah, but this particular case that I mentioned earlier about this flying disc, he actually backed it up as a real UFO when it's clearly internal camera reflection, and he's meant to be a scientist, a computer guy like me. If I could work it out, he should have been able to work it out too. It's like he's sort of become less critical and more believer himself, and he's lost that credibility in my eyes. Especially that Trinity case.
Oh, that was a big. Ooh, yeah, he'll never get over that one. But the worst thing he done, rather than admit his mistake, he doubled down on it.
Yeah, you should always admit your mistakes and say, "Oh yeah, I got duped by that one," or didn't realise that person was a liar, and I believed his account. But that often happens in ufology, right? what can you do though if you write a book about it and you've made all these claims? Yeah, you could probably do what Peter Robbins did, recall the book. You then get credibility, and save face.
Yeah.
And put out a new book that covers why it was pulled, maybe, and make more money that way. So you can do it. But yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get disclosure in our life, and we're going to die, and we're not going to know the real truth of everything.
Well,
I think that's the case.
I've kind of already accepted that, So if anything does come about unexpectedly, then it's just going to be a bonus. But if you're one of these people that want disclosure, best thing you can do is go find it for yourself. Don't rely on, because when you think about this, it's an oxymoron, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking for disclosure from the same people who have been covering this thing up for the last 75, 80 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, does it? Whatever disclosure you get from the government, and as Shogun was saying earlier, there's a kind of a drip disclosure going on. But remember now, that's government disclosure, and it won't be entirely honest.
We can't actually see your face. You're like
Oh, sorry, it's because I'm slumping.
Yeah,
I'm slumping further into my chair as time goes on.
Yeah, your camera's not adjusting with the light balance properly.
I'm also gutted. I've just bought some new night vision goggles, right? And I thought, right, as soon as I finish this, I'll get out and try them. Well, guess what? It's broad daylight.
Well, you are working strange hours.
Yeah, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like me and Skywatching. The days that I wanted to do a show on it, it's suddenly a big storm comes over and it's no good for doing a show. Do a Skywatching show because I'm going to start it up again. I've got it all set up.
Good.
In fact, what's it like out there? Today's probably actually a good day. Let's just bring up the cameras and let's have a look. It's slugging a bit with you on the side at the same time. Here we go. So yes, it's
nice.
You can see this one here. The automatic exposure is not very good. I'm going to have to manually change that because you should be able to see the blue sky like these other cameras. So that's looking through my new telephoto one. It's got 20 times optical zoom. You can see there, we could see planes come overhead, but it's very quiet. But yeah, we could be doing a sky watching show today, and if it stays that way, we would see the stars as well. And we could do a test run. But yeah, maybe next week. I mean, this week, we're already into Monday. Maybe something will happen. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do a daytime show and a nighttime one with the new setup and see what we can see. Maybe we'll see a meteorite shower even. Who knows? But you can see Dad's moved the ladders out the way here. It's leaning against the building instead because we had a big storm come through. So yeah, we could cam it the other direction. Let's see if it happens. So we can have a bit of fun seeing what's in the sky. Got all these presets. So yeah, it's looking good. Finally we got a clear sky, blue sky. It is winter here though.
You can tell by the trees, there's not much on them, is there?
Yeah, so planes should be coming, we should be able to see them coming this way. Then we'll see it coming this way. And we should just see them coming this way and turn around. And we should see them coming this way on this one if I can change the exposure. Because the automatic one's not working very good. Not too sure why. Maybe the firmware got updated and they got a bug in it. But yeah, you can see here, it sees the ground all right, but it doesn't see the sky right, and I'd have to change it to 1/500 manually. But yeah, it's coming together here. Even though it might be very cold outside at the moment, it might actually only be 10 degrees Celsius out there at the moment, but the cameras are working all right in it. But the amount of rain we've had is just crazy. So normally that's the position I have it in, facing that way. You can see it's a slight delay in get my clicks. But yeah, that program's going to work out quite good, I think. So, see what comes up in the next few days, whether I do a Skywatch test run. But yeah, green meteorite flying overhead, that would be good to capture like they did in China.
Just Shogun saying meteor and meteorite, which is which. A meteor doesn't become a meteorite until it's hit the deck.
Yeah,
if it's burnt up beforehand, it's still a meteor.
Yeah, meteorite can burn up in the atmosphere, and a meteorite
No.
Fragments of it.
Meteorite, it has, something has to hit the deck.
Yeah, so that means physical, it's a bit like other rocks with "ite" word after it, So it's like a rock you find on the ground, they call it a "ite." And if it's not a meteorite, it's called a meteorite. It's not. If it's another rock, it's called a meteorong, not a meteorite.
Come on, let's call it a day.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap up now, guys. And you can just drop off anytime you want to, and I'll just end up with the credits here if you want to, Robert.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. But thanks to Shogun for staying here the whole time and listening to us rambling on. So take care, and anyone else is tuned in as well. Bye bye.
Okay, good night. So Robert's gone, and I'm going to say good night too. And I'll just post a good night thing here. Yeah, go and get something to eat or sleep or whatever. Thanks for donations, etc. I'm not sure if I typed it in properly. Yep, we have. Okay, where's my thing to end it? Ending now. And I'll update the chapters in it. It's one of the shortest lives we've done so far, isn't it? I need to go and get something to eat, I guess. Maybe a toasty sandwich. I don't think we're having a regular dinner tonight, so I'll probably have my dinner now, actually. 3 meals in one. We're dedicated to this stuff, aren't we? There we go.